Okay, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, staff, it's ticked over 5:30, so I'd like to officially open the meeting of council and start off by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land that we meet on this afternoon, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. The next item I'll mention is this meeting is being live streamed, which means to our gallery and to councillors and staff that everything's streamed live, and accordingly any comments made will be picked up on that recording and sent out live. So in the best interest of everyone, and it's best to keep that in the back of our mind. In case, bit of housekeeping in case of emergencies, and I do sincerely hope we don't have any, but the process is to proceed back through the glass doors to the foyer to your right and out onto the footpath to wait further instruction if that was to occur. Okay, we're up to apologies, and any apologies, and we have Councillor Tony Wallace is an apology, and we have a leave of absence request there from Councillor Wallace. That and the recommendation is that we grant a leave of absence to Councillor Wallace for this meeting. Someone like to move? Councillor Manchester, seconded Councillor Stadmiller. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. So be it. The next item on our agenda is item 19/102, Young Aquatic Centre Project Update. The responsible officer is the Director of Infrastructure. Councillors, the reports there and the recommendations there. Would the Director like to speak to his report?
I'll let the report stand, Mr. Mayor.
The report stands. Councillors, I'm in your hands. There's a recommendation there and the report's in front of you.
I'll move that we move into committee, discussion.
Moved by Councillor Flannery that we move into committee. Seconded Councillor O'Connor. All those in favour? Aye. So be it. Thank you. Council is now in committee. For our gallery, what that means is that procedure is set aside at the moment, and it allows each councillor to contribute to the discussion, and there'll be no strict time bans on anyone speaking, and everyone will have their opportunity to speak. It's just that we do it without the procedure of actually being in the official meeting. So we're in committee of the whole. Councillors, the floor is yours.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor.
We'll just jump back a step. We will jump back a step. And as the Mayor has jumped one step a bit too quick, we have public forum. And I have 3 speakers on this item. So before we go into committee of the whole, to discuss this matter, it would be only fair and appropriate that we have the 3 speakers who have requested to speak. My apologies for that, team. Thank you for picking me up on that. The first speaker on the Young Aquatic Centre Project Update is Emma Coburn. Emma, you have 5 minutes and general tap or something in 4 minutes just to let you know where you're up to. So thank you.
Good evening, councillors, staff, community. I'm speaking tonight about the Young Aquatic Centre and supposed changes in cost of construction as a concerned ratepayer, local business owner, former primary school teacher, former swimming teacher, co-founder of a non-profit organisation that uses the pool every year for a community, a popular community event, in other words, Duck Day. A couple of questions. In the last month's agenda, I noted that there were some costs in the section 19266, costs of asbestos removal. 40 square metres that worked out to be roughly $298 a square metre to remove. 354 tonnes of the soil stuff worked out to be about $439 a tonne, and 900 tonne that worked out to be roughly $496 a tonne. I'm just wondering at the jump in the cost between the first lot of soil removed and the other, and also too a little bit of online research showing differences in asbestos removal costs, and wondering why on earth it was so much. I realise it's necessary to get rid of it, we've got to do that, but I'm just questioning the costs was the contractor, or did the contractor who was doing the work provide a written quote or a written variation?
Emma, I'll just
with the costs?
advise you at this point that in speaking in public forum, you have no platform to ask questions of councillors. You are to...
Righto. So that was one thing I sort of was wondering about. On that page, under financial implications, it mentions the Burruncong Creek transfer. I just wanted to make sure that that transfer of money across the pool doesn't affect the all age, all abilities playground at Tresillian Park. That's supposed to have been started by now and finished by the end of the year. I know there's a lot of community people out there that are looking forward to that. And on that same page, it also mentions consultation and timing with nil next to it, which is one of the main reasons I'm here. The proposed changes to the Aquatic Centre, leaving out much needed storerooms in the amenities block, and in particular talking about leaving out the kids' pool, was brought about with no perceived consultation with anyone that it actually affected. Neither the pool operators, swimming teachers or community who use those facilities had any idea of the planned changes until we saw it via a Facebook article from a local newspaper 24 hours or so before it was due to be voted on at this council meeting, or the last one. And it's also been noted by people that there's been very little consideration about disabled access into the Olympic pool as well. I find it a little ironic that council was asked to vote on a draft customer service policy at that very same meeting, where it states that the community are the customers and they deserve the best from us in every interaction and every action we take. Unfortunately, the activities of the council regarding changes to the pool amenities block and kids pool design haven't been in the community's best interest, but only centred around the cost. I wish to acknowledge Councillor Walker, who did reply to my letter. Thank you. That's the only reply that I've had. Initially, I was thinking we could delay the kids pool till we get some more funding. However, on second thoughts, I thought, no, we've got to get it done now. The reason being, I've been in this town just over 22 years, nearly regarded as a local. It took the council 10 years to get the first stage upgraded. It's literally been another 10 years for us to finally start stage 2. So I'm only guessing that it's going to be another 10 years before we get stage 3, the supposed heated pool up and running. If the kids pool isn't done now, along with the splash pad, I can't see it happening at all. Everyone in this room knows that's going to be the case. Especially when we've got other projects that need funding like bridge upgrades and libraries. I do note in the agenda for this meeting that there is a recommendation to put in an application for the Stronger Country Communities Fund to help fund the kids pool, and I certainly support that if we haven't got any other means of funding it. In the HIlltops community operational plan, it says one of our key pillars is a community area, and that we have a safe and healthy community. And within that, one of the points made is encourage the use of council facilities, including swimming pools, to provide community programs that are beneficial to all ages and ability levels. We need that kids pool. If we don't have it, a lot of kids miss out. We lose Duck Day. I'd like to see more communication with the public about these issues. I'd like to see the changes that were made by council staff put back on to the pool, the storeroom, the kids pool, and make sure that any further changes is done in consultation with the people that use the pool. Investigate options to keep that kids pool running, get it done now. Is there other funding options available? Can we contact the EPA and find out about emergency funding for the asbestos removal to cover those costs? In the September 18 agenda,
Wind it up.
okay. In the September meeting last year, a data graph showed that the 0 to 11-year-olds in this area constitute 15% of our population. That's a lot of people that are going to miss out if they don't get their kids pool. So, and it's going to affect that generation for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Emma. And it's not hard to tell that the matter's passionate with our community. The second speaker tonight is Michelle Madden. Could you please step up, Michelle?
Evening, Mayor Ingram, HIlltops councillors, HIlltops Council, ladies and gentlemen. By way of introduction, I'm Michelle Madden. I'm a keen swimmer myself am Secretary of Young Amateur Swim Club and run Learn to Swim lessons. I have swim teacher qualifications from Ausswim, Swim Australia and hold lifeguard qualifications too. I'm also a primary school teacher. I'll be focusing my view on the impacts of the proposed changes to the splash pad and splash pool area from a Learn to Swim perspective. In Young, we have a small group of very passionate and dedicated Learn to Swim teachers. Each and every summer, Young's Learn to Swim teachers are booked out and with waiting lists. I know that when I speak tonight, I will be speaking on behalf of and will be supported by all our local Learn to Swim teachers.
Truly.
Michelle, we might be able to hear you. Do I need to move it over here? Just should be able to pick it up.
Yes, sorry. I know that when I speak tonight, I will be speaking on behalf of and will be supported by our local Learn to Swim teachers. Before I begin, and just to be absolutely clear, the original plans that were distributed and supported included a splash pad and a splash pool space. The splash pad was to be new, a fun, interactive water play space with buckets and hoses for children with shallow depth. The splash pool part was essentially to replace the mushroom pool, a medium depth pool to provide that transition from the shallow depth before heading into the big pool. What Hilltops Council are now proposing is losing the splash pool area altogether and only having a splash pad. The value of a medium depth pool cannot be underestimated. It provides a vital transition space for children to progress from shallow depth before hitting the big pool. It provides a safe space for children to begin to explore deeper water and gain confidence. It provides a safe space for children to play and to learn and know their limits. In short, the splash pool provides a safe space for children to learn to manage risk. Some of the benefits of a medium depth splash pool provides children when it comes to Learn to Swim are: children can pick up swim toys from the bottom of the pool while still having their feet on the floor. Children can collect floating swim toys from around the pool while still having their feet on the floor. Children can begin to put their head underwater and blow bubbles, again while still having their feet on the floor. Children can grow in confidence to lift their feet off the floor, and children can learn to float with confidence and security. Our medium or splash pool space offers an important stepping stone in learning to swim progressions. So now, not only are the children of Young and surrounds unable to access Learn to Swim classes all year round, they will also be robbed of any sort of transition pool. In a 10-year analysis published by the Royal Lifesaving Society of Australia in 2018, it found that there were 257 cases of non-fatal drownings in public and commercial swimming pools. The leading age group for these non-fatal drownings were children aged 0 to 4 years at 45% and children aged 5 to 9 years at 21%. In 2017-18, children under 5 accounted for 36% of all swimming pool drowning deaths. And yet, with all this evidence of the need for a medium depth pool, here we are with Hilltops Council having gone and changed the plans that were originally distributed and agreed to now remove the splash pool and only have a splash pad with zero consultation of the user groups involved. I ask, where is the transparency and accountability of that from a government organisation? Hilltops Council need to stick with the original plans of a splash pad and a splash pool. There has been a recent petition with over 1,500 signatures to date supporting the need for a splash pool to remain in the redevelopment. This is your community speaking. This is the community expecting and needing a like-for-like replacement. An average aquatic facility contributes $2.72 million per year to its local community. With an anticipated Hilltops Council budget surplus of $4.69 million for the 1920 financial year and 72% of council revenue collected through rates and charges, that's $41.3 million, as documented in your 1920 budget media release on the 4th of July, it is hard to understand Hilltops Council's position to remove the splash pool.
Okay, Michelle, yeah.
So what I would like Hilltops Council to consider deeply is, what would you like your legacy to be? Would you like to be known as the council that got it wrong? the council that did not have the foresight and resolve to stick to the original plans? Or would you like to be known as a council that saw what a splash pad and a splash pool means for the children of this generation and the next? Would you like to be known as a council that invested in our children or not? The decisions that you make today regarding the splash pad and splash pool will affect the children of this town for years to come. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Michelle. The third speaker on the Young Aquatic Centre update is Tammy Stewart. Tammy.
I'm going to sit down here too. I'm nervous. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this meeting tonight. First of all, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tammy Stewart and I'm a midwife at Young Hospital. I'm also heavily involved in the Young Aquatic Centre on many levels. And while some of the things I'll talk about tonight will also reinforce what Michelle said, I'm just going to go over what I've already written down. I'm a keen swimmer and strongly believe in the health benefits associated with swimming for all age groups. I've had a long-term association with Swimming Club and I am a Learn to Swim instructor and a pool lifeguard. And for transparency, I also happen to be Alina Vittnell's sister. I was born and raised in Young and I have lived here for most of my life. Some of you may be wondering why, as a user group, we are so emotional about the issues surrounding the pool. And whilst I'll acknowledge that we cannot change things that have happened in the past, my following points may help you to understand why we are all so upset. As a child growing up here, I recall promises of pool upgrades and the promise of an indoor heated pool. I've spoken to many people in the last 2 weeks about the issues, and here below are some of their comments. One man said to me, I moved to Young in 1974 and there was talk of an indoor pool even back then. A colleague at the hospital has told me, my husband was the president of the Young Swimming Club about 20 years ago. We raised a lot of money for an indoor pool, but we just don't know what happened. A lady who is now in her 70s said to me, I came to Young 36 years ago and was very involved in swimming. We raised money for an indoor pool, but it just never happened. When the initial 3-stage plan for pool upgrades was approved by the previous council, local boy Josh Longhurst, who was 17 at the time, stood up in the town hall in front of more than 200 passionate people to advocate the need for the town to go ahead with plans for an indoor pool. Josh will be 30 years old this year. During all of my discussions with these people, they recall council engaging consultants and architects at an unknown cost to ratepayers, and the projects just never went ahead. Stage 1 of the plan was completed in 2009-2010, and then with the amalgamation, we are only just getting to stage 2 now. And despite council once again engaging the assistance of consultants and architects, just look at the mess we are in. And even with all of the expensive consultation, it seems plans can just be changed on a whim with no input from the community, the user groups, or in this case even you guys, the councillors, who were also left out of the loop until the last minute. We just don't understand why when it comes to issues relating to the pool, we continually seem to hit a brick wall. Perhaps if council actually followed through with the plans that are put out for the community to view, we may have had the project finished years ago. How can it consistently go so wrong? Quite frankly, we are fed up. An episode of ABC's program Utopia comes to mind. If this community had all the money spent on consultants and architects, I'm figuring we could have a state-of-the-art swimming pool by now. But instead, if these changes go ahead, we have less of a facility than what we started with. I appreciate that the project has currently gone way over budget and the discovery of additional asbestos has been the main source of the blowout. However, I find the figure of over $666,000 to be extortionate. The claims of 900 tonne of soil already taken with a further estimated 705 tonne to still be removed if the plans for the splash pool go ahead. Really? Has anyone from council actually looked into these figures and the costs associated with them? Does that mean that the area is still unsafe for the community to be around? As if I've read it correctly, the remaining soil is still contaminated. The figures supplied in relation to the construction of a splash pad as compared to a splash pool are also extraordinary. And whilst I won't go on as it's all in the agenda, I'd like to have access to the estimated $538,000 for a splash pad. I'm just wondering what type of sprinkler system I could set up at my own home with that sort of money. I would like to, on an even more personal note, and with the exception of Councillor Rolls, who contacted my sister Alina today, I was with Alina at the last council meeting in Brewer on the 28th of August, and I'm wondering if any of you actually took the time to read an email that was sent to you a couple of days later. One of the main complaints is the lack of communication from council staff, and yet not one of you, again, except Councillor Rolls, has even acknowledged the receipt of her email. Our general manager, who admitted a mistake was made, has not contacted Alina and Paul and asked them to come in and discuss their concerns about the running of their business for this coming season.
We've got about a minute left.
None of Alina's
Can we-
questions have been answered by the council staff, and in fact she has had no reply from anyone in relation to these pressing issues. And yet, if we listen to council staff, the pool is set to open again in less than 4 weeks. She was assured by John Osland on the 14th of August that she would be kept in the loop in regard to progress of the pool upgrade and any changes. However, the only reason that we were able to attend the meeting on August 28th was because Alina took the time to read the meeting agenda, and there she discovered the proposed changes. I would suggest that Ms Osland knew about the changes on August 14th and did not disclose them to Paul and Alina in a blatant attempt to keep them out of the loop.
You need to be careful with comments like that in public forum, as we all need to be careful.
It's not good customer service. I find this whole debacle so extremely frustrating. And at the end of the day, it's our kids of the future who will miss out. As cutbacks were already made on the size of the amenities currently under construction, I ask that this council go ahead with the original plan of a splash pool and pad and complete the project as intended.
Thank you.
We have an online petition, nearly finished, more than 1,500 people, and I would ask that you listen to the people of this community. Please do it once and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you to our three speakers, and it's quite obvious the passion that you speak with, and it's appreciated by all, I'm sure. Councillors, will resume back to where we were with a motion by Councillor Flannery and seconded by Councillor O'Connor, I believe, to go into committee. Is the council still happy for that to occur? All those in favour? Thank you very much, Council. We are now in committee. In your hands, councillors.
Yeah, Mr Mayor,
Councillor
I'd like
Horton.
to kick it off. We've been talking about this in depth on several meetings, and these are my thoughts. I've thought long and hard about it. It's a bit, the asbestos problem we had, it's a bit like when the horse was bolted. It's too late to shut the gate then. It's happened. What I believe should happen is those that are responsible, if it hasn't already happened, should be reprimanded and appropriate action taken. We need to put in place reporting procedures so that this never happens again. And we need to get on with the project and make it all happen, including the splash pool and the splash pad. Stick to the plan and do it. Now, $950,000 is the reported blowout, and that's a lot of money. And my concern when I was thinking about this was the residents of Hilltops foot the bill. But we have 19,000 residents and $950,000 over budget. That equates to 48 cents per week for 2 years per person, or 96 cents a week per person over 12 months. It's virtually nothing. Now's the time to do it. Borrow the money. Rates are the lowest they've ever been in my lifetime, and I've been around a long while. Borrow the money, get the job done. Councillor O'Connor and I went up to the pool today, spoke with John Osland, who took us up there, or met us there. Excuse me. We spoke with staff members there, and I asked the question, can we have the pool open this swimming season? And the response was yes, we can. You can use, I'll be able to use the pool to swim in this season. Maybe, the rest of the part probably not finished, but it can be open, and that will happen, I believe. So, Mr Mayor, let's get on with it, do the pool, because if we put it off and put it off, we'll never get it, as some speaker said earlier. We won't have the money, we won't be able to afford it. It'll probably double in price in the next 10 years. Let's do it and get on with our next project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horton, for that input. Any other speak? Councillor O'Connor.
Mr Mayor, I would like to support Councillor Horton. I don't think we should just do it. I think we just need to continue to do the whole thing now, not stop the project at all. Get the building finished, get the splash pad and pool underway. They may not be ready, for the whole season. They may only be ready for a little bit of the season. But I think we've got, contractors on there. Let them keep doing the project. Borrow what needs to be borrowed. I wouldn't look at taking money from other projects. I think just borrow the whole lot. Get the whole project done. Make sure that it's complete.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Any Councillor Flannery.
Mr Mayor, it's raking over old coals, but I think they're still pretty hot, so I'll rake them. The timeline on this report is just simply not acceptable. It still hasn't been answered as to how this money was spent without the correct allegations. And I think it's treating us like idiots to not deal with all the issues. For me to vote to borrow $1.5 million or to fund projects that are going to transfer money from other projects, whether it's in the former Young Shire or from the community as a whole, I can understand the frustration of the young community. However, to walk into the hardened change rooms, I think you'd feel like you went back 50 years. So there is more than just the young community at stake when we look at borrowing money. That's not to say that this project shouldn't be completed. Personally, I think, and I said it at the meeting when we voted on this, I couldn't work out how we were building a new facility but actually lessening the swimming facilities within that enclosure. I mean, it strikes me as the most idiotic thing I think we've done. Mr Mayor, I think we should complete the change rooms as they are, and we should bring this back to council for a splash pool and pad to be built next year when we can put it into the budget. It's not going to be operational this year if we start it now. So the prudent thing to do would be to put it out to tender, splash pool, splash pad, perhaps just a wading pool with the ability to put a splash pad in adjacent to it in time. But I'm mindful of all the other requirements. I think for Michelle to read the figures, we simply don't have the money, Michelle, that you were saying. If we did, we would be voting on it without any concern. But the reading of the financials, I don't think are as straightforward as you might have believed. But council will have to borrow the money if we were to do the whole lot. But as a bare minimum, we've got to actually get some answers as a council as to how this came about. It's not, can we please, it must be done. And Councillor Rolls, I think you attended a director's course in January. I would have thought you'd be, I still haven't seen that council report yet that you promised us, thumping the table, saying, where is it? I mean, I'm serious about that. If we're going to act within what we're expected to act, we have got to make sure processes are adhered to, and they haven't been adhered to. And unless we ensure they're going to be adhered to, General Manager, I think you need to consider your position. And I say that very seriously.
Point of order,
Thank-
Okay.
Thank you, councillors. I believe the issue that's been touched on is a separate issue to the matter that's in front of us. I know it's very closely related. It is. I understand that. There's two different issues to what we're speaking on at the moment. It's in regard to the splash facility, pool pad for the Young Aquatic Centre, and that's probably where we need to keep the conversation at. But thank you, Councillor Flannery. Your point's very valid. Councillor Manchester.
Yes, Mr Mayor. Look, my sentiments with the comments that both Councillor O'Connor and Councillor Horton made, and also some points that Councillor Flannery has made. Look, as far as asbestos is concerned, we can keep going over this. No one knew it was there, other than probably the people that built the pool back in the 1950s or 60s when it was first built. 30, sorry. So that's even further back. And unfortunately, there was apparently some houses built under, knocked down and then covered over. Whatever happened there, I don't know. It's before my time too. But I think we have to move forward on this. I agree with Councillor Flannery. We haven't got the money there. It is a lot of money that we're going to have to borrow to complete this. We were talking earlier on about the double C fund, and there's possibly some funds there, but that we would still have to borrow it. There's no way in the world will we get the splash pad and pool completed this year. So I think the main thing we should do now is to move forward with the amenities block, get it finished so that we can get the pool open this season as soon as possible. And then we look at how we're going to fund and progress the splash pool and splash pad. Obviously, borrowings is the most likely way that we have to go, but we need to do it and make sure that we get it done before it'll have to be next season, swimming season, but let's get this season over first and let's get the amenities open and built to the standard it should be. If there is a storage room and a couple of other rooms needed, we certainly must look at that before we can finish this building. This is the most cheapest and practical time to do it. If it's been pulled out of the plans, let's see what it needs to be put back in and finished. The main thing is now is to get this pool ready for the residents to use it, and we're still talking 3 or 4 weeks down the track. I can't see it be by that stage, but hopefully it might be 5 or 6 weeks. By the end of October it's be done. So let's get the pool open.
Thank you, Councillor Manchester. Councillor Rolls.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My apologies to Councillor Flannery for not putting that report in. I have put in some other reports on conferences that I have attended, perhaps the only person who has been to any, and I will certainly put in a report, a series of them, on what I have learnt at the Director's course, which I would encourage everybody to think about. As far as the pool's concerned, my feeling is, and I often talk about the Four Little Angels as a metaphor for the future for our youth. I would like to see the pool completed as planned. I don't think that we have a choice. Talking to people involved, the whole concept, I think, of the aquatic centre is something that will move our hilltops forward. It's something that, as we move up into the next, if you like, level of government area, that we need to look at as we're improving all our infrastructure. The old buildings, and I, perhaps amongst all the people here, have used it more than anybody, myself, and also with the children. It was very basic and something had to be done about it. The latent asbestos that has been found, it will be found everywhere, my argument is, and I think that we have to look for, put that into our future planning. As far as the splash pool is concerned, I would like to see the plans go ahead as they are. Of course it won't be ready for the summer, but the pool will be in use, and I'm sure anybody, the whole community, would recognise that the pool is this summer, and as long as they can see the work being kept going on the intermediate pool, then everybody knows that progress is going and it will be ready for the next season. I don't see that as a big problem. It's just a part of development, if you like. So I'm certainly for the pool being completed, that intermediate pool being an integral part of it. And if we borrow the money, I agree with Councillor Horton that overall the cost isn't large. I've been in this area, and I was in Hardinshire, now living in Young, and I must admit since 1976 I've been hearing about an upgrade for a young pool. So I certainly think that this is the time and this is the moment when we can do it. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Rolls. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Whilst I share the concerns of my fellow councillors in regard to the availability of the facility this year, I think that there are some very serious issues that need to be handled with this, and they relate to, sadly, issues that have been highlighted by the members of the community during this meeting, and that's essentially communication. From the chronology issued earlier, it would appear as though there was between 3 and 4 days between the time that the material was removed from the site and the general manager became aware of it. I just need that. I have that confirmed. Firstly, secondly, I note that the contract that's been issued for the construction was issued quite some while ago. The works do not include the construction of a splash pool. So, at the end of the day, what we are constructing is effectively a new administration centre and change rooms, amenities block, along with the splash playground, I guess I'm going to call it, rather to make the differentiation between the pool. I attended all of the community consultation sessions for this particular facility, including the one for the users, which included the Learn to Swim organisers. The issue of the splash pool actually came up then when I raised it. Up until that point, there hadn't been a great deal of concern about whether the splash pool was there or not, because the architects had also presented, in conjunction with the project, an architect's concept plan of a heated pool. And that heated pool included a section that was of a reduced depth and included a ramp to make the pool an accessible pool. There was a general acceptance of those that were present at that this minimal depth area, the easy access area, would more than compensate for the loss of the former mushroom pool. I guess when council originally resolved to build the pool inclusive of a splash pad, the play area, I was concerned, but I was also happy to go along with that, because I had recollection of the architect's impressions of what the heated pool would be. And I guess that's one of the reasons why I still support that construction of a splash playground, the zero depth, to the exclusion of a second pool, because it's my hope that when a heated pool does eventuate, that a heated pool will actually include an area of a appropriate design that provides all of those things that the splash pool would provide, as well as providing access, an accessible facility for those people with disabilities. So for that reason, I'd like to see council just get on with the construction of what we said we're going to get on with. The issue of how this occurred, I think that definitely demands further investigation. I think that there is a potentially a breakdown in communication that has cost, or a lack of a sense of urgency that's cost this council and the community $500,000, and that in a $3 million project to incur an additional $500,000 without any consultation with council and potentially what it looks like senior management, the general manager. I think that's untenable, and that's certainly there must be consequences for that.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Walker.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've been a strong advocate for the pool to be constructed properly and as to per plan ever since the conception of it. I've probably been on pool committees for well over 20 years, and I've seen from the start what the community wish for. It disappoints me greatly that we haven't consulted with the community. That's come out very clearly, not only at tonight's meeting but on previous meeting. I don't know how we can get to a stage where the community are screaming out to us, and each one are saying, we want this pool, we want the splash pad and we want the splash built as per the plan. There's an old saying that says prior proper planning, everyone's heard it, prevents poor performance. And if something doesn't come out clear, it's on this one. There's no proper planning went on. We listened to people who thought they knew about pools, but the users weren't consulted at all, it appears. Or if they were consulted and come up with an initial plan, it's certainly come to the case where they're not listening now. A design has been put together and the community saying, you didn't ask us, we're the users, we're going to make the money for you. And yet, who are these consultants that gave us a facility that just simply doesn't work? We're listening to the wrong people. And we're still not listening. We're still not listening. We had 3 people get up tonight and speak what's requested, and now people are saying, no, we'll put it off for 12 months. If we put it off for 12 months, what's going to happen is we're going to have the same problems that are occurring this year. They're just going to drag on and on without the facilities being built. It's got me beat how, and I can't reconcile in my mind how this wonderful facility was built in the 1930s. It's way ahead of its time. It's built to exactly 50 metres when metres weren't heard of in Australia. And they built a change rooms and showers that didn't need all these anchor and fancy piers that are required today. If we had a look and done our homework and had a look at the what was involved with those buildings, what was involved with those grounds, we would have saved ourselves millions of dollars and we would have had a pool. My main concern now is that we're putting a facility in and not leaving room for this promised, and what the community's been demanding ever since I've been on committees, a 25-metre indoor pool. Where's it going to fit now? Where's it going to fit? It sincerely concerns me. I will be voting to get as much done as we can, because I think a lot of the things that we've been promised have just been diminished in the last few months through lack of consultation. So I will be supporting as much as we can get done at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Councillor Tuckerman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just would like to ask a question, and the question is, how did the change in footprint for the amenities occur? Why were the storerooms taken out, and who took them out, and who authorised that?
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. I will defer to my Director of Infrastructure Services, but I do highlight that part of the reason we're here with the modification is that when the pricing came through on the original plans, it was well over budget. And so Council's instruction at that time was to come back and to make the project work within budget.
Through you, Mr Mayor, councillors. When Council instructed me to go away and find some reductions in prices, certainly the rooms that were taken out were labelled as meeting rooms. They certainly weren't storerooms. They weren't allocated as storerooms. They were allocated as meeting rooms. At the time, I spoke to the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor, and it was agreed that we didn't need any more meeting rooms in Young at this time, and they were appropriate to come out of there to try and save some of those costs.
Did we speak with any of the stakeholders in regards to that?
Not at the time, Councillor Tuckerman.
Councillor Tuckerman, anyone else like to say any commentary in regard to the matter?
Mr Mayor,
If
question
not-
for the
if
Director.
not- Oh, go on, sorry. Question, Councillor. And then, a minute.
Director, how is it that basically 2 months went by without what would appear of you being on site if you weren't aware of any of the asbestos issues?
Through you, Mr Mayor, councillor, I wouldn't say that I wasn't on site. In fact, I had been on site. The asbestos issues are found when you excavate, and certainly it was a matter of a couple of days there that I hadn't been on site, where my superintendent was on site and that superintendent's rep was on site. That's where the major part of the asbestos was found, and it was that's where we're talking about tonight, is that major, the 400 tonnes of asbestos that was found at that time, and that was only found over a period of a couple of days that was excavated.
Thank you for that. Okay, my turn, I guess. Councillor Stadmiller, if you could finger in the butt, sorry.
That's all right, I can go after you if you'd like,
No
Mr
way,
Mayor.
go, Councillor.
Okay. Plenty of issues with this. The splash pool, we're actually talking about not installing or constructing something that is a life-saving device for people of a particular age to continue to learn how to swim so that drownings don't occur. We just heard statistics on the number of deaths in children under 5 years of age. I've got a daughter that's going to turn 2 next year. She's going to use a splash pool. I suppose that hits home pretty hard for me. Looking at the asbestos and the soil testing that should have gone on, I'd like to see some information as to where the soil testing took place, whether it was on-site, off-site, or where the material was excavated. As a Hardinshire councillor, I've previously been asked to approve work at the Hardinshire Library, which had been completely done without any consultation with the councillors. And we were put in a situation for a much smaller amount of money. We're now being put in a situation again where there's been no consultation with councillors to approve a ridiculous amount of money that could have been avoided if people did their job properly. I've taken it upon myself to contact the EPA and work cover regarding these issues so that I can get clarity around some of the information that's supplied in this report. The information I've provided verbally at this stage is in stark contrast to what is in this report. We've got 7 pieces to the recommendation tonight. I wholeheartedly support the construction of the splash pool. We put a man on the moon in 1969 with about the same processing power as this phone. I'm sure we could find a way to install a splash pool if we needed to. I won't be receiving and noting the report. I find it offensive. I will not be endorsing the de-scoping of the splash pool from stage 1 of the Young Aquatic Centre project. I find that offensive. I will not be endorsing the use of the total stage 1 budget for the construction of the Young Aquatic Centre for an additional $500,000 for asbestos material to be cleaned up because there was no consultation with councillors. I will not be noting the direction given to the contractor to clean up ACM impacted material found on the site. What I'm more than happy to do is to note the inclusion of the Young Aquatic Centre Stage 1 splash pool for inclusion in the Stronger Communities Fund round grant for round 3 for a sum of $1.5 million. We may need the member to arrive pretty soon with a cheque to bail us out for an enormous stuff-up. I'm not going to note the timeline for the construction of the splash pool, that it will not be in 2019 calendar year, and I no longer have confidence to delegate the General Manager to execute documentation or look after this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller.
Mr Mayor, just before you speak, Mr Mayor, could I just ask or try and answer a question of Councillor Walker? At the inspection of the pool this afternoon, I asked a question regarding the heated pool. There is room for it. It'll be parallel to the existing pool. But, Mr Mayor, if I could ask the Director for Infrastructure to elaborate on that, because he was the gentleman that answered the question up there.
Well, I think I can answer that for you, Councillor. If you go back to the September council meeting and the business paper at that meeting, the diagrams are all there, and I've got it here with me, where it clearly states the space where the proposed heated pool could go if that financial circumstances ever allowed that to happen. And it was clearly stated in our business paper on the plan that was already there. That also states the stage 1 water fun park with the swimming beside it. So, on that note, councillors, a lot's been said, and it's all very true. This project has been underway for a long, long time. I got into former young council in 2012, and some passionate councillors were talking about a heated pool then, and it goes back a long way about the heated pool. Gaining the funds to make that happen was always going to be the hard part. So now we've got to a situation where we had some funding through amalgamation and a grant of, and I'd just like to have that door closed if I could, please, of $2 million originally to build a new entrance and change rooms for the Young Aquatic Centre. At that time I was on a Young Advisory Committee while we were in administration, and I thought that at the time my comment was, if it takes $2 million to build a entrance and some change rooms to our pool, something's wrong. So I asked that, at that stage, that was what I was talking about, the splash pool of any time wasn't talked about then. So I asked that $300,000 be taken away from that $2 million. Yes, I did. That $300,000 was removed from there, and $300,000 worth of interest was put with that money, and it wasn't just thrown in the air. If you drive around the Cranfield Oval, you'll see where that $600,000 went. There's a new grandstand there, and that was done as part of amalgamation split of money then. Back to the pool. I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone had any questions in regard to that. $1.7 million was there. We did some people in, give us some costings. It quickly became obvious we needed more funding. I, along with other councillors, sought to increase that funding. It went from 1.7 to 2 million. $300,000 been reallocated that had been set aside to do some work on the roof on the Capital Cherry building we own. We got to 2 million. We needed more money. Again, we sought more funding. So we reallocated $300,000 that was in the former Young Council's coffers from the sale of the former Tourist Information Office that was set down for improving assets in our community. So Council agreed to redirect that $300,000. We got to $2.3 million, thinking we will get this across the line. Back to Council staff come, we need more money. How much more money do we need? You know, numbers $400,000, $600,000 wasn't very appropriate, but we needed more money. We went to a meeting, it was held in Harden in April, to try and find some more money for the Aquatic Centre upgrade that would include everything that said in that documentation that would be delivered. We attempted to redivert some money from one project to the pool, and that motion was lost, and that was accepted by everyone. There was a number of foreshadowed motions put that night in regard to what might happen, and some of those included completely taking the splash pool facility out of it. And I might just mention there, some of the terminologies I think confused some people along the way. In some papers it was a splash pad, in other papers it was a splash pool, splash facility, a learn to swim. And I've got all the documentation here of what it was finally called when Council agreed to it. So we needed more money, we couldn't get it that. Later in the night I had a motion, get the majority of Council on board to say that we would take some funding that hadn't been utilised from the Burrangong Creek process and program. Some work had been done. There was an amount of round figures again, $600,000 that hadn't been utilised and was still there to be worked on what we might do with that. So Council agreed in the majority that that funding could be redirected to this Aquatic Centre upgrade. $2.9 million. I think the numbers are here somewhere. I think it's $2,933,000 we've achieved to get for this project. I went home that night feeling pretty good. Thought we'll achieve this. So I'll go back then. What happened then was the asbestos issue, and a couple of councils have pointed out, and senior staff are well aware of my thoughts in regard to that matter, and I've spoken in private in regard to that matter. But I concur with some councillors' comments that there will be further investigation into how that happened without council has been advised first. So that's a separate issue in regard to what we're dealing with tonight. It's very closely related, but it's just not what we're dealing with tonight. So $2.9 million, feeling we'll get this across the line. Here we are. We haven't got enough money to do it because of that variation. It takes up $500,000. We need some more money. The recommendation is there about where that funding might come from. But what I'm going to do first is just remind councillors and our guests of the resolution that was passed at that meeting in April, 17th of April, when there was a a motion put up that was defeated and several foreshadowed motions. The motion that was put and received and passed read, start the project with the intent to commence the demolition of the existing infrastructure immediately, because we were running out of time and we knew we'd be running into the season, using the existing funding at that stage of $2.3 million. The dot point B was to source additional funds from existing projects allocated for the Young area to fully realise stage 2 of this project. That was the last resolution of this council in regard to this project. So if you go back to the paperwork and find out what stage 2 states, it clearly states the splash pad learn to swim facility. Now that
question, has the plan changed since then?
Can I just finish, please? I haven't seen any change in plan. What I've seen is changing in wording in recommendations that were handed to council. I have seen that. What I'm speaking of is what council said they would endorse in the stage 2, and the motion that was passed at our meeting in April in Harden. It clearly states. Now, if we're talking about a number of things about taking it out, delaying, where the funding's coming from, it's my belief that resolution would have to be rescinded, because, to my knowledge, that stands at this present time. Okay? Now, I can be corrected and I can be overruled, and I'm quite happy to take that on board. I'm not all that experienced at this game, but that was the motion that was passed, the latest one by council, and that refers to what we agreed to would be stage 2 of this development. Councillor Walker, you're right, the terminology has changed along the way. If you go back through the papers and read them all, which I've got them there, it's talked about a splash pad, splash pool, splash facility. In the plans in September, I'll go back to the plan where I can show you where the area was left for the 25 metre heated pool. Councillor Walker, it's there. I need to put my glasses on for the fine print. And it's got the stage 1 water toy splash pad in the middle of the swim area, then the deeper area at the other end, which is obviously what they're talking about, the learners. It's there. It was in our September papers. It's there. I agree the terminology changed when it came back to council at one stage, but in September again, and I've got that here somewhere, it is described as a splash pad / learn to swim facility. So that's where it stands on process as far as I see. Everyone's aware that I hope and the community have a very valid right to say no, they weren't consulted in this last little period. I believe consultation was done in plenty in the lead up to when we started all this. But I would hope the community take on board the hard work that's gone in to take this back from 1.7 to 2.9 where we are now. Council has done this at the expense of no one else except perhaps some other community projects if they were laid on our table, which they haven't been. So council's resources in regard to our grant funding has been clearly headed towards this project. We're not there yet, and that's why we're here tonight. My take on that would be that, yeah, that tells me that the money could come out of the grant funding that's been allocated to our area, and there's another grant funding coming up which we would have to talk to OLG about and our local members and ensure that that funding could be moved from that grant project. But that's what I'll be seeking to do, as Councillor Stadmiller said, and I mentioned to staff that the recommendation will have to be pulled apart and there will have to be a motion worded around it because some of it doesn't make a lot of sense and I don't agree with it also. So we will need to have from where I'm sitting, a foreshadowed motion or a notice of motion that we can work forward with in regards to this. But they're just my thoughts on it, councillors, and I'm open to anyone with questions to staff or any more comments before we come out of committee. Councillor Flannery.
Mr Mayor, noting your comments, however, when my recollection of when we last voted, and from memory we spent an hour and a half, I think there was only 10 councillors available that night, so we spent an hour and a half stuck on this motion, and I know I certainly, supported by Councillor Walker, put up, Councillor Wallace seconded the motion, that we rebuild the facility on the existing site because we were aware we were short of money, and that motion was defeated because I at that time was aware that we were not going to be able to build the splash pool and pad with the money we had available. We then went round and round in circles for an hour and a half. And my clear recollection is saying how, I think I used a few light expletives to say how ridiculous or stupid it was that we would be building a splash pad. You might as well turn a sprinkler on, I said, and we're not going to have a wading pool. And I thought, if that's where we've got to, it's ridiculous. But that is my clear recollection that we were made aware of what we were getting ourselves into, and I have a recollection that it was incredible that I discussed that we were building new change rooms but taking one pool away. In fact, at that stage we were taking both pools away.
Councillor Flannery, I'm well aware of the notice of motion that was put up by yourself, and it didn't succeed. And I'm also well aware that meeting went on for some time, and there was a lot of debate. And I put the motion that got up, and as you're well aware, you seconded it, Councillor Flannery. So we'd just like to point that out, so just to clear the record for everyone. Okay. So, councillors,
Mr. Mayor, can I just clarify, please? Stage 2. So you're talking about a splash pad pool, which includes a toddler learn to swim pool, all in the one.
Yep.
So that is stage 2. Correct?
As on page 13.
Stage 2, stage 2B, if you'd like to call it stage 2B, I'd call it stage 2B myself. But yep.
But that was a part of
That was the part of
motion that was last put to council.
That's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
Just
Councillor
clarification. I'm just reading the minutes from that particular meeting, and it's the statement that to source additional funds from existing projects allocated for young area to fully realise stage 2 of this project. I note that in the report we're talking about stage 1 of the project, so is stage 1 stage 2 from the minutes? And secondly, we have $500,000 allocated to Garibaldi Gully for a project that we're going to undertake with our own day labour staff. I don't think we've done anything up there yet, and it's probably not likely to occur this year. I'm just wondering whether there's an opportunity to move that $500,000 from Garibaldi Gully straight to this project now, so as it is then fully funded to build what council had originally resolved to do back on the 17th of April.
Councillor Armstrong, I don't. We're not apparently agreeing on what we said we'd do. The 500,000 you're talking about, I agree, and I fully agree with that. But that would enable us to build a splash pad, and splash pad only, is my understanding. So that's not really what was in our mindset when we agreed to what we agreed to back in September going forward. I agree with part of the funding could come from that and reimburse that project, as we spoke about before, from round 3. But that is where we're sitting now with when we come out of committee, councillors, we will need a motion of some type, if someone's only crafting one up, or a foreshadowed motion to deal with the matter that's in front of us. Otherwise we will continue to go round and round in circles and be deferred and back here next month. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Armstrong.
I can't agree with you there. I look to the minutes and I see that Councillor Walker and I share the same opinion in that regard, because Councillor Walker seconded the motion that was put and lost in regard to the splash facility rather than a pool.
That's
so
right. They were lost.
But I guess what I'm saying is that your reasoning that it is a splash pool, a pool, swimming pool, and a splash pad facility. I don't necessarily share the feeling that was the issue that was being discussed there. I think that the issue was being discussed was the actual splash pad, the zero depth splash pad, rather than a separate wading pool.
Thank you, Councillor. I will refer back to the September meeting and the document that came to Council in September, and the motion that was successful at the April meeting in Harden, which clearly states to me I have a responsibility to be guided by that unless that is rescinded in some shape or form. Okay.
Can I get some clarification on this stage 1 and stage 2?
Through the chair, Councillor Armstrong, stage 1 is stage 2. I can confirm that. Did you want a clarification on the balance of funds in Blackguard Gully?
If stage 1 is indeed stage 2, then yes, I'd like a clarification on the amount of money available.
Blackguard Gully has approximately $400,000.
Okay, councillors. Councillor Tuckerman.
Can I just foreshadow this motion and
Can we
ask
please
for
get
any...
someone, can we just before you start, councillor, can I have some senior staff have some pens ready? We've been through this process a number of times and it seems to take an eternity. If someone can write them down and give them to our penciler, please.
So I'd like to foreshadow the motion but require any feedback if I've missed anything. So receive and note the report. Complete the stage 2 of the project, which I believe is inclusive of the splash pool and splash pad as one, correct?
Yep.
Note direction given to the contractor to clean up the ACM impacted material found on site. Include the Young Aquatic Centre Stage 1A for inclusion in the Stronger Country Community Round 3. If unsuccessful, borrow the monies to complete the project and delegate the GM to execute documentation. Happy to receive feedback. Have we covered everything?
We'll get it up on the screen and we can have a look at it, councillors, for input before we come out of committee.
Mr Mayor, broadly, as I said earlier, I believe having a pool without a wading, aquatic centre without a wading pool is just not an option. However, I strongly believe we should go back out to tender, given it won't be built this year. I strongly believe we should go out to tender on the construction of the splash pool and splash pad between now and we can basically go out to tender now, so it's constructed by next year.
But isn't that what we've already tendered out? But how could you? The plan is there. That's what we've tendered out, isn't it?
Question to staff, maybe from Councillor Tuckerman, please.
But isn't the pad inclusive of the pool? That's what I've just been told, that stage 2 is the splash pad, which is inclusive of the learn to swim pool. So a different depth at different ends, I'm assuming. Is that what's been tendered?
Yeah. It's in the September paper, what it actually is.
Through the chair.
On page 8, Mr Mayor, it states, the report states, given the budgetary issues associated with the project, the Hines Construction current contract, and in heavy text, does not include any works for the construction of a splash pool. So if the report is indeed factual, I'd suggest that no, it's not included there in the contract.
Through you, Mr Mayor, didn't you just tell me the exact opposite?
It's my understanding. There is a problem. With the staff can answer this question because it's probably an area they should. The contract was handed to do the start of the administration building, let's call it, the entrance, and staff were delegated to negotiate with the preferred tenderer to commence the other works. I'll hand over to the staff who are handling the matter at the time now. Someone.
Through the chair, I'll just ask the Director of Infrastructure.
I just did that, actually, yeah.
As part of the tendering process, we went to all the tenderers and asked them to quote on the entire project, or to tender on the entire project, which was the administration building and the splash pad. When we put the contract together, we, at that stage, and we excluded the splash pad and the pool from the final part of the costing till we had all the money and all the costings sorted. We haven't at this stage signed with Hines to build that part of the works. That's what we're looking for tonight, as to whether we go ahead or not. It's in there. It was in their original tender, and it was tendered against other contractors. Yes.
And Mr Mayor, that was very clear to me when I voted at the council meeting. It was very clear when I seconded it, and I think I said, if you're stupid enough to build a facility for the people of Young, I'll change my vote and second it. They're going to kill us when they find out what's happened. And that was exactly what's happened. I said we might as well turn a sprinkler on.
Thank you.
And it says very clearly in this report that we have two options. You either got a formed pool or we go for a spray concrete pool. Now, if everyone read the report, they'd know exactly that we don't have a tender on it because it talks about the options left to us.
I don't believe myself that I ever said we had a tender for it. I said it was the stage of the pool that stage 2 of the project that we agreed to fund. I don't believe I've said in this meeting, which is recorded live, that I mentioned that it was out to tender or we had a contract on it. I'm talking about the funding so that we can do it.
That's why I'm saying we should need to go to tender for it.
But you've got the original tender.
It's never accepted.
We have the original tender, which was for a concrete formed pool. One of the options we talked about, councillors, is to go for to save funds on there, is that we can go for a spray formed pool, which would save us some money in this. We haven't gone down that path yet until we resolve, do we go ahead with this, and then we'll speak to the contractors about how much their original quote or the original tender is versus what a spray formed pool would be, and we'll still be looking at that, talking to them about other options in terms of relocation of plant rooms and things to get us away from potentially more asbestos-related material, potentially greater depths of excavation. All of those things we'll still keep talking to the contractors about to keep trying to save money.
Okay, councillors.
Mr Mayor, that doesn't
Councillor
answer the
Flannery.
question. We don't have a tender price for the construction of a wading pool and splash pad. We clearly don't have a price. It was the issue that we argued about because all the contractors were overpriced, and at one stage it was proposed that a contractor to an existing building be given the job, and you spoke roundly against that, and then it was a negotiated contract, and that's exactly the outcome.
Yep. You're correct, Councillor Flannery. I agree. I agree.
Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
Councillor
Yes.
Manchester.
Yeah, look, the reason I agree with what the comments that Councillor Flannery made was exactly because of this, that I couldn't see anywhere in this where we had a tendered price on the splash pool and pad. And that's what I believe, that we should park that section of it and go out and get a price on it and then build it for the 2019-20 season. So in other words, get it constructed after the end of this swim and get this swimming season up and started as soon as we can.
Questions of staff? The costing and the number that you've given council to work with tonight, was that costing and that number got from the contractor who we're anticipating will do this job? Where did this number come from? I'm asking.
That was part of the original tender that they gave us, and in negotiations to try to work out just what was there, what wasn't. So yes, Mr Mayor, it was part of the contractor's price in anticipation of getting that work.
Thank you. That might clarify a little bit there.
Mr Mayor, for
Councillor
clarification,
Yep.
this is currently a foreshadowed motion up here, so once the staff are finished completing it, we are going to go back, likely vote against this current recommendation in the business paper and then look at discussing this further. Is that correct?
The process is we deal with what's in front of us, unless then there wasn't a motion moved straight in front of it. There's a foreshadowed motion moved. So that tells that we're going to deal with what's on the books unless the motion is moved directly when we come back out of council to something else. Because this is put up there as a foreshadowed motion, not a motion.
Just a question on procedure. Given that council has resolved to source additional funds from existing projects allocated in the Young area to fully realise stage 2 of this project, do we need to to rescind that, because the foreshadowed motion would be contrary to Council's Resolution 122, if we're going to go to borrow.
You're correct, Councillor Armstrong, so that the process would be, if that was to be as it reads there, and to fully follow that resolution, that we would need to relocate some funding from projects that are there now, which we talked about. Garibaldi Gully's one, there's some money there. The Chinaman's Dam project is another one, where money could be relocated to see this come to fruition, and then the money would have to be replaced there from round 3. That might sound a bit simple, but it's not that simple, because we would need concurrence from OLG. I understand that, and there are risks involved with everything, because we've found out big risks involved with some of these projects. So there is an element of risk there. The last bastion of defence we have is everything else goes pear-shaped. We borrow. I'm not a great fan of that idea. While we've got government granting us money, I'd rather use grant funding than borrowing. But if it got to the worst case scenario, I guess that's where we're left. But I don't want to preempt anything that might be on this foreshadowed motion or any motion that might be coming forward when we come out of committee. Councillor
And the
Tuckman.
other thing is, through you, Mr Mayor, I mean, we'd have to actually, there had to be a motion about what grant fundings you want to take from where, and it would have to be agreed by council.
That's right.
So it's like putting the cart before the horse, and, as this seems to be the case in quite a lot of our meetings lately, is we're putting things off, and nothing's getting done.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckman. Okay, we've had considerable debate and discussion. Would someone like to move we come out of committee? Councillor Horton, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Stadmiller. All those in favour? Okay, councillors, we'll go back to...
Mr Mayor, can I just point out
Councillor Tuckman.
that in the report, that it states that under point 3 splash pool facility, as part of the original tender, the full depth splash pool option was priced by Hines Construction at $976,796.
Yep.
GST exclusive.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's correct, I see it, yep.
And then the asbestos on top of it.
But we were just told that it wasn't a part of the original tender.
It was part of the original tender. It was part of the original tender, but then they discounted it. It was priced. Yeah, it was priced.
Councillors?
Mr Mayor, can I add to the foreshadowed motion that a part G, council call for tenders for construction, or tenders for construction. Of this splash pool and tag.
I'm sorry, I'm just really confused.
The gallery, Council, if we're going to continue down this vein, I will call that we go back into committee.
I'd like to move we go back into committee, please,
Thank
Mr
you.
Mayor.
Moved, Councillor Tuckerman. Seconded, Councillor Stadmiller. All those in favour? Again, now, councillors, we are in committee for a reason. Let's get this organised before we come out again, please. Councillor Tuckerman, in
Could
your
I
hands.
please have some clarity on whether the splash pool facility has been a part of the original tender process?
Councillor, as I said previously, yes, it was part of the original tender. We didn't sign the document or sign up to Part B, which was the splash pool. At this stage, we broke the tender up into two parts. Part A, the administration building. Part B, the splash pool. We have signed up for the construction of the administration building while we sort out the rest of the funding.
So, clarity, why do we need to go out to tender?
Well, we don't. It's there.
Through the chair, you have tested the market.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just another question to the Director. So while we have this tender figure, on top of that there is also the possibility of some savings if we go to the other type of pool plus relocation of the filtration system.
Yes, Councillor, that's correct. If we change types of pools, we can reduce that cost. If we relocate the filtration facility, we can reduce that cost. The issue with the filtration facilities at the moment, it's up towards the skate park. The balance tank would need to be excavated 3 metres deep. If we can move it towards the splash pool, we can reduce that excavation depth. We would clad it in a very similar manner to the existing building, wouldn't look any different, but we would certainly save some money there on excavation costs and potential then as to how much asbestos contaminated material we would have to dispose of.
And sorry, just second part of that question, has that been discussed with the tenderer so that they are in agreement to do that?
They're in agreement to work with us to reduce those costs, yes.
So, just to clarify, the 1.5 with 81619 is made up of 976,796 for the pool, which is the Learn to Swim pool and the pad inclusive.
Yes.
341,220 for ACM disposal.
Yes.
And a 263,000 contingency.
Yes.
Thank you. So I do not agree with the last point of the foreshadowed motion that Councillor Flannery has just noted. So can that be removed as a part of my foreshadowed motion? Thank you.
And Mr Mayor, I concur with Councillor Tuckerman on that.
So do I. The only variable it says here, and it clearly tells us that the only variable would be the disposal of spoil material.
Mr Mayor, question for the Director.
Councillor.
In relation, if we were to proceed with construction, if we were to amend the contract with Hines Construction to include previously stated amounts, and we were therefore trying to do it whilst they were currently on site, how would we deal with the asbestos material during the swimming season and the operation of the pool?
I actually asked Hines Construction that question today, and they said they could actually dig around where the pool's going to be before the swimming season starts, and so get rid of the material that they find that's spoiled, so that it's safe.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Taking the pressure off a staff member. But if the staff member would like to elaborate on that.
No, another question. When assuming we don't commence construction of the splash pad this swimming season, when will Hines Constructions complete all their work on site?
They will complete, I've been advised they will complete their work on site for the, and I'll call it the administration building, for the sake of want of a better word. That will be completed mid to late October. They will move their sheds in the next 2 weeks so that we can put some temporary facilities, temporary change rooms and temporary access where those sheds are now to get access to the site, and certainly keep the pool so the pool can operate as from the October opening. And they tell me it'll be up 2 to 3 weeks before they are completely out of that site and the building is complete.
Question, Mr Mayor?
Councillor Stadmiller.
For whoever can answer, one of the directors most likely. When researching the licences which provide the framework to how both of the waste facilities are governed, Red Hill and Victoria Street, and verbal advice I have received from the EPA. Can Council clarify whether the asbestos will go there on a council-owned site, which I believe would be at a decreased cost to where it previously went, or not?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question that's been asked and it can be answered here in public.
Through the Chair, neither Red Hill or Victoria Street can accept commercial-grade asbestos at either of those sites. The Victoria Street facility has a current licence which does allow 5,000 tonnes per annum. However, that landfill has no ability to take any additional commercial asbestos.
Okay, the verbal advice I received from the EPA was that both sites are able to accommodate asbestos, and on the licences 5915 and 5916, it states that asbestos can be dealt with under certain clauses within that licence. So would the General Manager be willing to bring both of those licences up on the board so that the room and the Council can understand what can and cannot be put at both of the local tips, which we currently own ourselves?
General Manager, I'd just like to clarify one point. I've seen written documentation that says that Red Hill hasn't got a licence for asbestos, full stop. I don't know if your verbal agreement to that. I had a look at the EPA licences. The EPA licence, I agree with Victoria Street. There's a licence there. We've told there's no room left there to put it. We've got to take that on notice and as it is. But the General Manager would like to clarify, but I'm pretty sure I've cited documentation from the EPA, and I'll be saying that the other one is completely out.
Yep. Certainly, we have that documentation, Council. I can give you a copy of that tonight. I have it with me. However, we don't rely on just a Google search on our licences. We took legal advice in relation to those licences. We also sought written confirmation from the EPA, and I can advise you the legal advice in relation to Red Hill Tip does not allow us to accept commercial asbestos or hazardous waste on that site. And I can confirm that the Victoria Street facility is unable to take commercial grade asbestos in any quantity. Currently, the only ability Council has at the Victoria Street facility is to actually take domestic grade asbestos as long as it fits in the skips that are actually located there to do that. Hence, the requirement to take that hazardous waste to the Jugeong facility at $440 a tonne.
Thank you.
Another question, Mr. Mayor. Both of the sites, I've been informed, are able to take asbestos, and the legal advice contained in here is an attempt to justify that they can't, in my opinion. And that's not good enough. I didn't ask to see both of those licences myself. I asked for you to show the people in this room tonight and the general public what they state. I know what they state, and I know what the person on the phone told me what they state. I'm currently awaiting the return of documentation via a GIPA with work cover and the EPA so that it can be stated in a formal document for you.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller.
Through the Chair, I'm happy to make those licences available to the public should they so wish to look at them.
Councillor Stadmiller will go to the process of Council, and I have no problem with the any evidence being shown or documentation shown to our community. I've read material myself. I take you on your word that you've got verbal advice to the contrary. I'm still seeking further advice about Victoria Street myself. So I've been made aware by our General Manager that the documentation is there. I've cited documentation that said that Red Hill is out of play altogether. We haven't got a licence there. The one at Victoria Street, well, I'm still looking at that myself. So thank you for your interest, and we're all in the same world of trying to save money and have things disposed of as cheap as we can. But we're dealing with the EPA and legal people, so that's what they're telling us at the present time. Frustrating? I agree, Councillor. Back to where we are with this, before we come out with this, any more comments around this notice of motion, foreshadowed motion, councillors?
Yes, Mr Mayor, can I just clarify something, please, through you?
Yep.
Just in regards to the foreshadowed motion, obviously that 1.5 we believe may be the allocated amount for the young township, which means that no other project would be able to get up. So I just would like to include the contingency, if that full amount is not allocated, that the rest be borrowed to be able to complete the project. So if unsuccessful with the Stronger Communities Fund round 3, or if a shortfall of those funds, or somehow worded that the rest be borrowed, that the balance be borrowed, yes. If unsuccessful round 3, or if a shortfall of those funds, that the balance be borrowed to complete the project.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that just gives us a contingency if the state government wants to allocate
Do something
in another
different
way.
with another community project, that's correct.
Or part of the funds.
Maybe we should put or a part of those funds rather than shortfall. Let's be positive and not
Yep.
negative. Unusual, I know.
Mr Mayor, can I just
Councillor
some
Armstrong.
clarifications from Councillor Tuckerman? Councillor Tuckerman, Council's already expecting that round 3 is going to fund the $500,000 that was $560,000 that was taken from the Barangong Creek project. I guess if this foreshadowed motion is successful, then that means that the Barangong Creek project cannot be delivered to the community.
Well,
So maybe it should be $1 million.
so that's my point, and that's what I wanted to discuss and make councillors aware that there are other projects that we would like to get up under the Stronger Country Communities. So, you know, I'm happy to ask for $1 million. It's up,
And then
you know,
borrow the rest.
I'm
We've got-
foreshadowing this motion for discussion.
Yep. My understanding, councillor, is we have the money for Garrambalda Gully there. That money is there. That's going...
No, the Barangong Creek, there's another $564,000.
Sorry,
for
yeah.
Barangong Creek was...
There was, that's
diverted.
right. And those proposed works were put on hold. You're exactly right, till we could obtain further funding from grant funding somewhere. If you bring them into the mix and you want to use them, you are going to need to find another $600,000 somewhere. So
Well, the decision needs to be made. Are we going to complete one project?
the resolution from the April meeting to source additional funds from existing projects allocated from the Young area to fully realise stage 2 of the project.
Mr Mayor, that is why I said initially we'll borrow the $950,000 at low interest and do the job. Get it done with now. It'll never happen.
Mr Mayor, we can't do that without amending all our budgets. I mean, that's got to go out in 28 days.
That's right.
And even the proposed amendment, these round 3 funding won't be announced till February, March. I mean, I just think it's beyond belief that we wouldn't put this back out, that we finish what we're doing. It's not going to be finished. It's not going to be built this year. I mean, to try and give the public the impression that we are going to have this finished and ready for them this year is not going to happen. There's a part of the report that says an option, this is a formed pool, an option is a spray concrete pool. I would say 90% of pools being swum in Australia are either fiberglass or sprayed concrete pool, yet when we're short of money, we're doing the most expensive option. And in fact, we're awarding it to a construction company because they are simply on site when we don't even know if we've got the money by the time they've finished their existing contract. It's madness to go and hand over money when we can't even start the project until next March.
And to the point, Councillor Flannery, just to clarify, we have the funding. The money is there, as was indicated by that resolution. The funding...
But also,
and
Councillor,
when that funding becomes available in round 3, it goes back there, Councillor. I understand that. This is a way of doing exactly what Councillor Tuckman just said. Are we going to finish a project? Let's finish the Young Aquatic Centre project. To what we said we'd do it.
yeah, I agree. And what Councillor Flannery is saying is not allowing for re-establishment and cost increases.
That's right. If we stop and say, okay, and there's definitely merit to what Councillor Flannery's saying, for sure and certain. That the point being, if we do that, we'll probably have to add another $200,000 in because we will have to cover that over, get it all so everyone can open the pool and use it, and then re-go there. So that's a concern, but Councillor, I agree with some of your points. There's definitely merit there, but I just personally think the other way is the way I think I'd like to see it go, but that's only me. But your conversation and your points are full of merits. So, councillors, before we come out this time, if there's any more discussion or anyone not too particularly happy
Mayor,
about, Councillor O'Connor.
Assuming Councillor Tuckerman is happy to do this, I think we just borrow the money and not take it, because I think we're not going to find out, as Councillor Flannery said, till probably February, March. I think we just need to get this project finished.
We're just not that simple to say we're going to go and borrow money for a project. There's a process that has to be followed. As a last resort, if we got to that stage, I don't believe we're at that stage just yet. I think this can work. I sincerely hope it does. And there's, as I said, there's always risk involved in anything. But I'm hopeful that this would be the way of coming and bringing this to bear.
Mr Mayor, question, could the General Manager advise us of the processes, assuming this motion...
Could you start again, please, Councillor?
Assuming this motion is voted on, what will be the processes in going back to the state government, basically withdrawing, seeking an application to withdraw the funds from the Garibaldi Gully and the balance of the other Blackguard Gully project? What will be the process and likely timing on that with respect to the completion of the work by Hines Construction at the existing pool?
Through the Chair, I'll get the Director of Infrastructure Services to talk to the timeline, but obviously there would be a degree of urgency to actually get the money moved across to this project, so we do have to do that as quickly as possible, and certainly I'll defer to the Director of Infrastructure Services about what's a realistic timeframe to actually construct.
Discussions with the contractor today, councillors, were that if we said go after this meeting, they will start the excavation while we discuss the type of pool to build, or the type of how they build that, whether it's formed or whether it's spray formed or or sprayed. We can do that while they're doing the excavation. They tell me that it'll be about a 5 to 6 month process from whenever we say go to complete that work. So it's likely to be February, March next year by the time we get the small pool on the splash pad.
For clarification, Mr Mayor,
Councillor.
the timeline of events, I find it rather puzzling how anyone's first or last name has managed to completely evade the timeline of events, including the contractors. So for clarification, who was the contractor who removed the asbestos?
Through the Chair, the current contractor on site.
And who may that be?
That's fine.
Someone like to answer Councillor Stadman's question?
It was part of Hines' contract, and Hines used their subcontractor who are qualified or licensed to transport that sort of material. That was ensured that their subcontractors were licensed, but yes, it was part of Hines' contract.
That again, after the General Manager and the Director, does not answer my question. What is the name of the contractor who removed the asbestos? Who had the demolition licence to remove the asbestos at a cost of $667,000?
Through the Chair, I think we've actually given that explanation in the report, but I'm really not quite sure that you understand our answer.
Okay.
Someone's not understanding something, and it's not me at the moment.
Okay.
What is the name of the contractor who removed the asbestos? And I don't want to be told Hines, because I know Hines has won the overhaul contract for the job. There are subcontractors involved here.
Yes, we do. There are subcontractors. Are you able to provide that?
Is it appropriate?
I'm not going to provide any because it's been appropriate. That the understanding is that the the contractor responsible for the project was Hines, and he employs subcontractors, and there could be ramifications around legal about whether that's anything to do with us, Councillor.
Accountability.
And that, you're right, but that's where it sits at this present moment in time in this meeting. I would ask everyone to be respectful and keep their manners through this process. We all understand there's a lot of frustration in the room. I've got some as well, so I've got more questions to be asked. But they're not going to be asked or answered in this particular moment or this particular forum.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, we're getting a little emotional here, understandably so. Can we get on with what we're talking about, this foreshadowed motion?
Just
and
about
get
what
it,
we're
get
about to do, I hope, Councillor.
Thank you.
So, Councillors...
So just clarification before we do. So those timelines in regards to the stronger country communities will work?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Timelines on getting approval from the state government to transfer the funds.
Councillor Flannery's asked about the timelines it might take to get approval from OLG to move these funds around.
Through the Chair, without talking with them, I can't give you that, but I certainly can take that question on notice.
And they will be contacted tomorrow if this was to be happening, I'd imagine. I'd hope.
So I'm sorry, what funds are we talking about?
Through the Chair, my understanding is that Councillor Flannery is actually talking about existing funds that are currently in the hand, that have been approved for Council on a number of projects.
And that will come back to Council to decide whether that happens?
It's already been decided.
Yep.
It's already been approved.
No, but we haven't approved what funds?
No.
From what grant?
We haven't approved...
From what projects,
From which projects. We approved the removal of that funding. Council deems it necessary, and I have no problem with it at all, that it would come back to our meeting in a fortnight's time with the projects and the money next to it of where they might be reallocated till such time as round 3 is finished. But that's quite the way to be doing it.
I just hope that as councillors we get the opportunity to decide where and from what projects, if we agree to that, that they come from.
Of course. Of course.
So just to be clear, Mr Mayor, we are going, if we vote on this recommendation tonight, we are voting to move funds from other projects in Young, but we haven't determined which projects. It will come back to Council.
No, that's not correct, because we've already done that.
That's right. We did that in April.
Yes, it's your existing motion.
We've done that in April.
Okay, so where's the... We've got the money sitting there, so why are we voting to borrow more money? Well, for a requirement for more money. Where is the money?
The money's been allocated already through round 1 and round 2. It's just got a project name next to it that we're going to ask to move, to bring this project forward to completion.
I'm at a loss. Where is the $1.5 million coming from? You've said it's already been approved, but where is it coming from?
There's $1.1 million allocated to Chinaman's Dam. There was $500,000 allocated to Blackheart Gully. There's 1.6 that I know of, without going any further.
So isn't that coming back to the next council meeting to be approved for removal?
The removal of the money is sanctioned there in that resolution. Where it comes from, yes, we'll have to come back to council. Councillor Flannery, I agree with you.
And that's
So,
the
Mr.
point.
Mayor, why
Councillor Tuckerman just questioned that a few minutes ago.
Why don't we have that list now so we can make that decision?
Through the Chair, we can give you figures if you'd like. There's currently $400,000 on the Blackheart Gully project that's still available, and there's roughly 1.1 million available on the Chinaman's Dam. If you recall, that was two grants, one for 300,000 and one for 800,000, and that's getting you pretty close to that figure.
So, Councillor Tuckerman, are you proposing that they are the funds that we reallocate to this project? And if not, it'll have to come back to the meeting at the end of September. So we cannot move on this contract until we have actually determined where the funds are coming from. So we can't tell the contractor anything, and then we have to get approval from the state government. Is that not correct?
Look, through the Chair, we can approach the state government without having to have everything tied up to see whether they're amenable to actually moving those funds across those two projects. So we can do that in parallel. and we certainly can come to the council meeting, hopefully, with a firm recommendation in relation to that.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor.
I don't think it appropriate to be taking money from other projects. Many people in the community are looking forward to these things happening in their part of the world, just the same as the people are looking forward to having a swimming pool. I think we should borrow the money, get it done with, get people in the pool and pay it back at low interest rate.
The sentiment is right, and it's exactly what has been put there now, is we're borrowing the money from other projects we've already got the money from. It's already sitting there. So we're borrowing it from them, and we'll replace it if we're successful from round 3. I can't simplify it anymore. I know there's technicalities around that, and I agree with Councillor Flannery that there are technicalities around it. Of course there are. That's the simple version of what I'm saying, or what this resolution is in part saying. So, barring any other questions before we do come out, that is a foreshadowed motion to go up, and we can go from there with that if Council's happy. So, would someone like to...
Could I just ask one question? If we take money from these other projects, how are you going to pay that back?
When I get the $1.58 million out of round 3, Councillor Horton.
If you get it.
Council will definitely be getting it. It's a matter of where it goes to. We've been guaranteed $2,340,000 out of round 3, which will be handed out at this stage, I'm told, at the end of January. So that's where I'm talking about. Councillor Flannery.
Tell you what, if I listen to this discussion, we might not be getting it. Can I foreshadow a motion, or can I move amended that we transition the funds from Garibaldi Gully and Chinaman's Dam to complete this project, and that our Stronger Country Community round 3 application be for reimbursement of those 2 projects?
You would get there. You would get there. No football on tonight, is there? Oh.
Mr Mayor, can I...
Councillor Armstrong?
Can I move that we go back, come out of committee and put the motion?
Councillor Armstrong has moved that we'll go back to process and we come out of committee. Seconder? Seconded. Councillor Horton, all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Yep. Okay, staff and councillors, we're now out of committee for the second time. We have a foreshadowed motion. It was moved by Councillor Tuckerman. It hasn't got a seconder at this stage. Seconded Councillor Horton.
Can I move my amendment to
Councillor Flannery would like to move an amendment to that motion. Seconded. Thanks, Councillor Armstrong.
So the intention, Councillor Flannery, when you're moving the amendment, is to include it in the original motion. So I'm happy to adopt that.
Dot point G it would
I'm
be.
happy to adopt that amendment as part of the original motion.
Staff, that would be dot point G of the original motion. Please.
Apologies, could you please repeat that? That is G. That is G.
Those two are G and F.
Yep. Fantastic. Okay.
Remove D.
Probably
D goes. Yeah. We have a
Through the
contingency,
Chair, look,
so
it's roughly 1.5, and so we're talking out.
councillors, please.
We're talking, roughly what we have left is 1.5. And clearly the figure, and that's got a contingency, don't forget, of $263,603 in there, and that's some $81,000. So we've still got, roughly $180,000 contingency with the rough estimate of where the balances are for those projects.
Thank you. Councillor, the original mover and seconder, are they happy with the amendments that's been made to the motion? Yes. Councillor Tuckman.
I just have a question in regards to the eligibility of those previous projects in the next round and whether you can actually apply again.
I imagine that would take part of the discussion with OLG. There could be a dot point in there that mentions that somewhere, that this all relies on OLG allowing us to transfer funds that have been granted for one project to another, then reimburse them. So I don't know if that needs to be in there. I'm in your hands.
I think it does.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I think that what Councillor Tuckman is getting at is the criteria for round 3 has got a youth component in it. Whether this would
No, only 50% of that does. But I'm just wondering whether, because it's already been allocated money, whether they'd still be eligible to be a part of that round. Yes. That's what my concern is, and that's why I think we should still have the borrowing capacity in there.
That's all that's left. If unsuccessful, borrow.
If not accepted,
Yeah.
if the proposed,
If unsuccessful, borrow.
yeah, if the funds be borrowed.
Are the mover and seconder now happy with the motion that's on the board?
I'd like to speak against part of the motion, Mr. Mayor.
I'll call for that, councillor. Yes, I will. Moved and seconded. Councillor Tuckman, would you like to speak to it?
I'll reserve my right.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? Councillor Stadmiller.
I have a couple of issues here. Receive and note the report. To do that would be agreeing with or confirming that the report is factual. I regard it to be erroneous. Complete the total Stage 2 project with the inclusion of splash pool and pad. There's no date put on that, so we still can't justify to the community whether it's this year, 2020 or 2050. Note the direction given to the contractor to clean up ACM impacted material found on the site. There's a word there, note. I believe that's going to allow the contractor to receive the funding. Why don't we just spell it out and be very clear that noting the direction given to the contractor to clean up the ACM impacted material is approving the expenditure of the funds. I'm in full support of transition the funds from Garibaldi Gully and Chinaman's Dam with permission to help fund the pool. I'm also in support of, if unsuccessful, the funds be borrowed, and I'd like to see point F changed to councillors execute all relevant documentation.
Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. Another call for another speaker for the motion. Anyone else like to speak for it? If not, I'll call anyone else like to speak against it.
Question. Question, through Mr. Mayor, to the Director of Infrastructure. This pricing, is it inclusive? Is it for a sprayed concrete pool or a poured concrete pool?
The pricing is for a poured concrete pool, which was what was quoted originally. We haven't gone to the contractor to look at the prices for a sprayed concrete pool at this stage. Yes.
I hope so, yeah. Satisfied, Councillor Armstrong, with the response?
I just want to get this clear on the public record.
Yep.
We will be seeking costings for a sprayed pool, can we please ensure that we undertake adequate core samples, boreholes at this location, because I'll point to a recent article published in the Young Witness that discussed the history of that location, where indeed all of the pool area was filled back out to Coney Island. So there won't be a little bit of fill there, there'll be a bloody lot.
Thank you, councillor. So I've had a for, is against, and I went a question. Speaker for? Okay.
I'll just reserve my concerns about taking funding from other projects when I would have thought that the original resolution would have been more appropriate and fitting and more workable.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Are the speakers to write a reply? Councillor Tuckerman?
Just in reply to Councillor Walker, the only issue with that is in regards to having to rescind the previous motion in April, which will again delay completing this project. I would assume that point B is actually to complete this project as soon as possible. And in regards to delegating...
No, don't add anything now.
No, don't add it. I'm just saying
back.
in reply to Councillor Stadmiller's comments.
I understand that.
And I also don't believe the comment in regard to delegating councillors to execute documents actually legal. So therefore I commend the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tuckerman. On that note, councillors, I'll put the motion that's on the board that all councillors clearly understand. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you very much, councillors. I just want for clarification, Councillor Stadmiller, did you abstain from voting or vote against? Same result. That's
Still negative.
Negative.
Still a negative.
Thank you. We'll go back to process, councillor. Thank you. You've been understanding. I mean, all understand frustrations. We've all got them. Okay, councillors, that takes us to the next item on our agenda, which is, which I haven't got. So I haven't got a clue where I'm up to. So we'll just get organised.
Well, that was simple.
So, I need to know which one's first. This one is it? Yeah. Local government one? Right, okay. I can talk to it.
So we just need to move in second to accept the late report?
Yep, right. And just let the councillor let the rooms clear up.
Would you not deal with the rest of the agenda, Mr Mayor, before the extraordinary...
Sorry, now just stop. Hang on. Directions both sides.
Look, through the chair, we did actually raise this at the meeting. It was round about 10 o'clock at night, so we put, we had a motion there that was to award a tender. We actually voted the motion down. The correct process was to reject all tenders and provide a reason as to why we were doing that, and that's under section 178(3)(c) of the Act. So indeed, we just need to take that that motion back and then proceed with the appropriate motion.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the motion that's there to rescind the motion 19294 and to be replaced with a motion decline to accept. To accept any of the tenders. Decline to accept any of the tenders, and then replace that as part A, and then B, be provided with an estimate for the supply of the toilet blocks. That be part B. And D, report back to September council meeting.
So, Councillor, you're saying to me you want to move...
I'll move the recommendation that's there that we rescind the motion 19294.
And then we've got the next item is the actual... Yes. So this is a single item. Yes. The item to rescind is simple. So it's moved by Councillor Winchester.
Seconded.
Seconded Councillor Ward.
So I'll move. Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I actually didn't see it was there. So I'll move that recommendation.
Seconded.
And a second again.
Through the chair.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding that there was questions at the time at the meeting about the cost of the toilet block in Newson Park, as to what that facility actually costs, and there was some disagreement with that and non-clarity regarding the current costing. So, yeah, council requested us to come back with estimates as to what that would be compared to the prefabricated facilities that might be available on the market.
Thank you for that, and I had a discussion with some staff in regard to this particular matter and the toilets, and we're talking about $3 million projects, and at the moment, Council, we're having trouble deciding on a toilet block. We finally decided it had to go back where it came from, and now we seem to be having trouble just deciding what we're going to put there, so hopefully we can resolve that matter very, very soon. On that note, I had a mover and a seconder. All those were in favour, we passed it. There was a question from Councillor Walker, which has been answered. Thank you. We'll go to, there's two late items, I believe.
That's right.
We'll do with them in order if I got them. 6.02 is in regard to, could I have someone please move that we accept these late reports into a meeting? Moved Councillor Tuckman, thank you. Seconded Councillor Armstrong, thank you. Item 1902A is in regard to the notice of intention to issue performance improvement notice from the Minister for Local Government, September 2019. And the General Manager put this late report together. I will speak to this report first, given that I've been on the phone a great deal of the time today to both the Office of Local Government and to the Minister's office. As everyone's aware, Council received this notice of intention. The first correspondence was sent at 4:10 p.m. on last Friday afternoon, which was picked up by myself at 5:10 when I got inside and checked the emails. I contacted our General Manager, who had only just become aware of it as well. I had no pre-warning this letter was coming. I sent the notice to my Deputy Mayor to make him aware of what was happening. He had a couple of questions around the initial notice of intention that was sent to us. There appeared there should have been an attachment with it, and there wasn't. There was one attachment with it, but it wasn't the one that they stated would be with it. So it was a bit confusing as to what the attachment was supposed to be. Of course, it was very concerning, and I know our staff and our Hilltops Council auditors jumped into gear all over the weekend, given that we were told that our financial figures would be on the State Auditor's Office on Monday. And now I'm well aware that there's been different days and dates said when that would be there, but that was the latest information that I had, and I thought it was a bit ironic receiving a letter late Friday afternoon when these financials, albeit, and I've said it before, are 12 months late. So, while that was disheartening, I thought we'd better react to this and make sure that we send a submission back to the Minister's office to ensure that this is where it finished. And we weren't issued with a performance improvement notice. So, speaking with the General Manager on Monday, and again yesterday in regard to this matter, I had some concerns because in the notice of intention it stated that Council would have to take it to a Council meeting, which we did straight away to our extraordinary that we had called, which was convenient that way, and explain in open to our Council and to our community what this meant, and reply to the Minister's office within 7 days. One document said within 7 days, the other document said in no less than 7 days. So there's a bit of conflicting information there. So I made some inquiries and I was told that it had to be done in 7 days, and I pointed out that that would not give our staff or our General Manager time to do the full and comprehensive report that I would need to cite in regard to this matter before it was sent to anyone. The early indication I had was that the submission had to go back within 7 days, basically saying that that was up to the organisation to send this submission back in regards to what happened with our financials and why we shouldn't receive this notice. I pointed out to our organisation and leaders and that I wouldn't have that. I could not have a submission sent back in regard to something so serious until I myself and all fellow councillors had read that submission. Because at the end of the day, we are responsible for our financials. And for someone to ask our staff to send off a submission on something so serious without Council first acknowledging and endorsing that submission would be completely inappropriate, I believed. That said, our General Manager then contacted the Office of Local Government for some clarity around what they expected to be in this submission to go back. It was then that they got back to Council at 5 o'clock yesterday afternoon and said that what was sent out wasn't the full detailed information. There was, as was indicated, an attachment wasn't sent with it. This had been an error on their part. We'll send it out to you today. I said to our General Manager this morning that this is not very helpful to our cause, and given our timelines, this isn't going to work. So I, first of all, rang the Minister's office and spoke to her advisor and explained the situation to him. He was understanding of where I was coming from and said he could totally understand that no council would really want that submission sent off without them citing it first. And given the timelines, that could not possibly happen by tonight. I asked him then, would the Minister's office consider Council, if we brought this matter tonight and resolved to, as we've all agreed to, we'll agree to send a submission back to the Minister's office explaining what needs to be explained comprehensively. Would that be okay for Council to do that, say that tonight, give staff the time to do this and bring it to Council at our next Council meeting, which is only 14 days away? He agreed with me that that made common sense, but he would have to go and seek some legal advice and where it went from there. When I finished that phone call, I had a phone call back from the Office of Local Government that I left a message there and had the same conversation again. The Office of Local Government informed me that the process was wrong from the start. The Office of Local Government advised me that the process is that they serve this notice on Council, not the Minister's office. New Minister's office, new people, I imagine, I don't know. It just goes to show that local government aren't the only ones who err sometime. But I do not wish to get the Minister's office offside, but there seemed to be in the process getting to Council some errors occurred. I thought it was very strange in the first instance to receive an email of that type that quite honestly deflated myself on Friday night without any warning or any phone call or any amount of courtesy shown to our organisation and particularly councillors, because at the end of the day we are the responsible ones, and this particular letter was headed to Brian Ingram, Councillor Ingram. So I found that strange. again today I am told that normal process is that I would have received that phone call as Mayor of our organisation. And there were some words said about how it happened, and it shouldn't have happened, and I took that and accepted that. I'm telling you this because it is serious. We know it's serious. We know we've been late. These letters get sent out. It creates attention, of course, because it's community money, and as I said, interviewed yesterday, it's very important that everyone keeps an eye on things. We're 12 months late getting our financials to where they should have been. There's a bundle of reasons which will be in a submission to say why that happened, and some are very valid, some may be convenient. The simple fact of the matter is we didn't have them in time. My conversation finished today with the Office of Local Government into where my main concern lies. These audited financial figures are now on their desk for 17-18, and they've been dealt with and will be signed off, and hopefully they might even be signed off by our council meeting in 14 days' time from the State Auditor's Office. My concern now is directed solely at one point, and that's delivering our 2018-19 financials in the appropriate time span. We have, as every council has, the opportunity to ask for an extension early, and I hate to be flippant with staff, but I would suggest that it would be very relevant for us to apply for, and I'm not too sure, but we will be calling on a report of just where we are up to with those financials in a time frame of when they may be ready to go, but if necessary, there'll be no hesitation. We will be asking for an extension so that we don't receive any more correspondence, whether it be from the Minister's Office or the Office of Local Government for this organisation. Council, I've probably explained the background to where this comes from. So the end result today was a phone call back at 4 o'clock from OLG informing me that if we were to move a recommendation, which I think they'll quickly work the staff for me, that is in front of you there, they will take that. The legality of it is we have to reply with something within 7 days. They are happy to accept this as our submission within the 7 days, taking on board that we will provide the full submission with Council's consent on the 26th of September after our normal September meeting. So this is what I've been advised to do tonight. Send that off to the appropriate office. They will take that as our submission within 7 days, and we will finalise everything at our September 25 meeting. I'm happy to take any questions or concerns from anyone in regard to this matter before we go any further, if you like.
Questions?
Councillor Walker.
There's been a lot of confusion, it seems to be, in the last month or two as to where our reports actually were. Could you answer that? Are we being told now that they've only just landed on the desk of the Office of Local Government and the audit officer's been sitting on it, or who's doing the audit, or where have these reports been?
I'll probably hand to staff, but my understanding, the questions I've been asking, and as Council's been asking, and the ARIC Committee, which is the Audit Risk Improvement Committee, where our financials have been up to for a long time, and I've been told that in their hands, been handed over to Council's auditors, who then have to hand them over to the State Auditor's Office. That's where they've been sitting every time we've asked the question, with our auditors being finalised. If you'd like any more clarification around that, I'll pass over to the General Manager.
So through the Chair, there was a protracted period of actually getting the financials to the point that they could be audited. And we were at that point in May, and we were working with our auditors to get responses back, and they go through a process of testing on your accounts. By June, we were getting quite concerned, and in July we agreed, in consultation with the ARIC, to actually bring the auditors back in to finish off the accounts because the backwards and forwards seemed to be taking too long. So they actually they did a site visit on the 1st and 2nd of August with the intention to actually close that audit out very quickly. Certainly we've been incredibly disappointed to find that when the external auditors had sent to us, had advised us saying that the audit would be on the, their audit would be on the State Audit Office desk by, a fortnight ago. And then we found out that they actually could not have been, they weren't ready. So we have been let down, certainly in relation to that. the State Audit Office, the external auditors and ourselves have been communicating in a three-way conversation ever since July. And certainly it's been a priority for the organisation and it's been urgent. We did finally get that audit file, or the auditor finally got that audit file across the State Audit Office, unfortunately, at 5:10 on Friday afternoon. We have just been cleaning up that paperwork and resubmitting it again. And the Audit Office have advised me today that they have a few deliverables that they expect from the auditor, and that is a management report and a report on the conduct of the audit. And what they have advised me is they're expecting that back from the external auditor by lunchtime tomorrow.
Mr Mayor, question for the General Manager. What correspondence has there been with the OLG regarding lodgement of the audited financial statements since we missed the 28th of February deadline?
Look, through the Chair, the staff at the Office of Local Government have been in constant contact with our staff, and so we have kept them abreast of where we've been at the whole time, as would the State Audit Office.
Through the Mayor.
Councillor Horton.
Through the Mayor to the General Manager, what steps are you going to take to make sure that this doesn't happen again, and that the next 12 months will be in on time, preferably earlier than on time?
Through the Chair, it's a good question, because of clearly it's about lessons learned. Last year, or the 17-18 financials were a unique situation where we were bringing together 3 legacy systems and 3 councils and rolling them into a new system. The problem we encountered is that the management of the organisation decided to roll those sets of accounts, all 3, early, before the end of the financial year. As a result, that created an incredible problem for the organisation, which took nearly 12 months to reconcile. So, on a level that can't be repeated, we are now in a single financial system, and so we won't have those same legacy issues. That said, it was a failure of planning for the audit, and clearly our project plans are in place to deliver the 18-19 audit, and certainly there was a very good understanding about where those problems happened in relation to 17-18, and you'll see those in the submission. But the real key is planning and milestones, and agreed milestones, and we certainly have been talking to our new auditors, Deloitte's, in relation to an engagement program. We have also raised the fact of there's some significant accounting standard changes in the year just previously gone, and Deloitte's are advising that we seek an extension, and indeed Councillor Armstrong brought that up at the council meeting last month, and our aim is to put to finalise that project plan in conjunction with the auditors, so that we indeed can meet any extension with a good contingency to ensure that certainly that this problem doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Councillor Stadmiller.
Clarification, Mr Mayor. Are we led to believe that this has all come out of the Office of Local Government? Is that the case? And it's been a mistake?
No. Are you referring to my comments, Councillor? I'll answer it.
Well, whether you can answer it or the General Manager.
Initially, the correspondence came from the Minister's office. I'm informed, as I spoke about earlier, the normal process is this documentation is served by the Office of Local Government, and that's why there was no courtesy phone call to the Mayor of the organisation, and the reason it was sent out at 4:10 on a Friday afternoon without the full body of the report indicates that the person who did it may have done so without delegation as well. Council, that's probably the best way I can put it. Thank you. Councillor Tuckerman.
A couple of questions. So, if that's the case, the order was actually, was done today. So, isn't it 7 days from today?
It's 7 days from today, and they will take what's in front of you with an amendment that I will make to it as our submission within that 7 days.
Rightio. So, how far down the track are we with our submission? I would assume it's been 5 days since we received the first notice?
Through the Chair, the missing documentation was actually how to respond to the submission. So certainly we've started putting information together and we do have that. It's about the rigour now of actually going through the fact sheets and the order itself and just making sure that we cover off on that. And clearly the most important part of that is also producing those audited financial statements, which we would have 28 days to do.
In regards to the extension that expired on the 28th of February, I think.
That's right.
Was there not were we not required to seek a further extension? So how does an extension expire on the 28th of February and we are now at the 11th of September and nothing has been put forward to Council?
As being a member of one of the two councillors on the ARIC committee, I can answer that question for you. Now, Council was asked, and the person who was in that position at the time, who is no longer with the organisation, was asked, would Council like to seek a further extension? The answer that staff member gave was no. And my understanding is once you say no to any further extension, that's it. We were told at ARIC that our documentation would be ready to go. I best not say too much more about that.
In regards to ARIC, I believe normal procedure is actually to have, in previous meetings that I've attended, there has been actually the State Audit Office as a part of that meeting. Have they not been a part of that meeting, those meetings since February?
Yes, there was a phone hookup. Councillor Armstrong might be able to help and verify me here. The last time we met, they were on the phone. Councillor Armstrong, to your understanding?
For all but one ARIC meeting for Hilltops Council since the election in September 2017, the Audit Office has been available. On one occasion, the Audit Office wasn't available because the infrastructure in this room didn't allow us to have them available. But otherwise, yes, they have been in attendance via telephone or in person.
State auditors actually contracted our auditors, is that correct?
That's correct.
So who in fact manages our auditors?
Through the Chair of the State Audit Office, indeed, they have key deliverables.
Thank you.
So
Should that not be included in our submission?
I would suggest it would be, and that's why I sought the information and the contacts that I made today for that very reason, to make sure that the submission is comprehensive, thorough, and that councillors review it before it is sent to anyone, because it is our name on the line, and that's why we are where we are. The notice of motion that's there, the resolution that's there, I will add an amendment to it when someone moves and seconded it, dot point B, but I'll wait for someone to move it and then I'll tell you what I think my amendment should be, if there's no other.
Mr Mayor, it's just not clear to me what we're actually sending back to the State Audit Office.
Not very much. The fact all we're doing is acknowledging that we brought this to Council, which we were asked to do in an open Council, and we've notified the public of that, and we've acknowledged that we will supply a submission after our Council meeting, and that they will accept that. That is the correspondence I had this afternoon. They will treat this as the submission they will accept that was sent to them within the 7 days, and the further submission, full submission, which will be endorsed by Council, will be delivered to them on the 26th of September after we have a meeting on the 25th. That's the arrangement that OLG spoke to me on the phone at 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Horton, as a mover. And a seconder. Seconded, Councillor Horton. I'd like to move an amendment to dot point B. Acknowledge that a submission will be... Acknowledge that a submission will be supplied to Council for endorsement at Council's September 25 meeting. to be endorsed. And passed on to the Minister's office on the 26th of September 2019.
Mr Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
through
please.
you? I think we probably should acknowledge that a full submission will be supplied to Council on the 25th of September.
Could have left that point in there and this could have been an extra point.
But also acknowledge the fact that you have had discussions with the Minister's office in regards to the fact that what we're doing now is actually endorsed by them in regard to the notice of intention, which I believe started today, which would take us to the 19th of September or 18th of September. So I just think we need to capture in there the fact that you've had a conversation and that we are complying with the notice of intention as it stands by acknowledging, but also then putting forward the fact that we are going to put forward a full submission as required by the date you suggested.
Councillors, I might ask you to allow me a little leeway here. There's an email that I've received that I just went looking for. It arrived obviously in between when we were at the workshop to now from the Office of Local Government. I note your request below for an extension of time to provide Council submission on the notice. I advise that the Council submission is due, close of business, on 19th September 2019, which is the 7 days, which they've told me they will accept this as a submission. Unless the Minister sees fit to grant an extension, Council should understand that the Minister is not bound by Council's meeting schedule. If Council wishes to seek such an extension, then it should formally resolve to request that extension and provide that request as your submission on the notice. So that might add a dot point here somewhere in regard to that wording that I've just got there now. The Council, okay. If Council wishes to seek such an extension, then it should form a result. And so dot point E would be that Council requests that Council seek.
With all due respect, Mr Mayor, I don't know whether that correspondence that you've received actually includes noting this correspondence as actually complying with the notice of intention. So I would suggest that we need to get the submission done by the 19th of September and have a extraordinary meeting before then.
If that is the case from reading what I'm reading here, I will clarify this tomorrow in writing with the office, and if this is the case, then we will be having an extraordinary meeting. If I can clarify with their office what they told me on the phone today, we will deal with it the 25th. But I will get that in writing tomorrow. I'm surprised to see that date there. But he does say we need to seek an extension. This afternoon I was told verbally that that would be fine. I'll have that clarified in writing tomorrow. Yep. Okay.
Mr Mayor, I in part can understand the frustration that we all share given obvious issues with the auditors. However, I think given the discussion that went ahead tonight and just given the issues we are having as a council, it's not surprising the Minister is wondering what on earth is going on. And I don't believe they will readily be granting us. I wouldn't be readily granting an extra extension if I was a Minister, so I think we need to be ready for the 19th. Yep. We're showing ourselves to be a bit of a schmozzle on a number of issues.
Councillor, I understand that, and I've spoke to the General Manager. The first time was 5:10 on Friday night when I opened this email to express my sense of urgency again in regard to this matter, and I expect everyone else to have that same sense of emergency. What I'm trying to do is make sure that they can provide us with a comprehensive submission so that we don't go to the next stage in this process, and I concur with your thoughts. Going on that email there, it confirms we've got the 19th. My understanding from a conversation today was this will be accepted in that time frame and they will accept their full submission after our 25th meeting. I will confirm that in writing tomorrow. If I can't confirm that in writing tomorrow and they confirm that it stays on the 19th, we will be having an extraordinary meeting on the morning or on the night of the 18th somewhere, so we can give staff maximum time to get this together so we can ratify it. But at this stage tonight, the OLG that spoke to me at 4 o'clock indicated that that would be acceptable to all. So.
Mr. Mayor, if you extended point B, acknowledge that the discussions have occurred with the Office of Local Government today, and that I'm requesting an extension. Just put on requesting an extension for lodgement of the submission. Acknowledging that a full submission will be supplied by Council to the local government. Request extension so that a full submission can be considered by Council at its next ordinary meeting. I agree with all the rest of it. So I think it's just acknowledged that discussions have occurred with the Office of Local Government today, and I'm now requesting a formal extension.
I don't think
Is that covered off by dot point D? Or not? Yep. Or not? Or do you want that in somewhere else?
Okay. Leave it by point D. Yep.
And I will get back to all councillors tomorrow as soon as I have written confirmation one way or the other on my conversation with OLG at 4 o'clock today. On that note,
Question,
Councillor Walker.
why can't the submission be within 7 days?
I'm not saying it can't, but I never said it couldn't be. What I would like to see is staff given maximum time to make sure the report is full and comprehensive. If by getting an extension that I was assured that today would be fine, given the manner in how it was handled from the other end, that would allow us to do it at our normal council meeting and avoid calling an extraordinary meeting. I have no trouble calling an extraordinary meeting. I was thinking of council as a whole when I was negotiating and talking with the Office of Local Government today. I have no problems if council deemed that we should have staff have this ready and presented to us at an extraordinary meeting and sent off in 7 days. Then I'm in the hands of councillors. I just think that if the Office of Local Government, and we'll know tomorrow in writing whether what they told me this afternoon is satisfactory to the 25th, and if they say the 19th, Councillor Walker, I'll be on the phone to you first thing and I'll call an extraordinary meeting. I suppose the point is, do you want to call an extraordinary meeting, or do you want to see if they'll let us go through to the 25th of September?
It seems like we can have a meeting either way.
Not really. No.
If the minister's not agreeable.
If the minister's not agreeable, Councillor Walker, we will have to have an extraordinary meeting. You are correct. If the minister's agreeable, we won't have to have an extraordinary meeting. We will deal with it at a September 25 meeting. That was the understanding OLG gave me at 4 o'clock today. So it's up on the board. If we had a mover, we're going to move in a second now to this. We had a move in a second because I made an amendment. And if the mover and the seconder were happy with that,
Yes.
and there's any other discussion in regard to the matter before I put it? If not, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour?
Aye.
Again? Unanimous? No, sorry, it's not unanimous. Councillor Walker voted against that. And as I said, councillors, I will be in contact tomorrow, yea or nay, in regard to the have it in writing about the extension to the 25th meeting. If they stick firm, if that date that's there sticks, we'll go from there. I'm up to the last item now. Where are we? Item 19/02B, rate harmonisation, opt-out of September 2019. It's there, council, in front of you. I'll hand over to the General Manager.
Through the Chair, as a merged council, we originally had a deadline to harmonise our rates by the 1st of July 2020. Just recently, the Minister amended the Act and all merged councils were given a 12-month extension in relation to rates harmonisation. accordingly, in conversation with the Office of Local Government, they have advised us that we cannot opt out to go early. In other words, we cannot actually bring forward our rates harmonisation to 2020. They're quite concerned with the notice of intention for the performance improvement notice, and they have advised us that we have the extension. We don't need to do any further action, and indeed we will continue with our rate freeze until the 1st of July 2021.
I've got a question in regard to this. Are you advising council to take the extension, or are you saying to council you have something in black and white that says we have to take it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Through the chair, yes.
Can I see the documentation where in black and white where it says we have to take the extension? Have we got the correspondence? It's not in the report, is it? Have I missed something?
Through the chair, I can take that on notice.
Well,
through you, Mr Mayor, I thought that we could make a decision to continue to the 2020 if we wish to. So currently it is allowing us to go to 2021, but if we want to remain on the same path that we are, that we then have to make a motion in regards to that.
That's right. However, the Office of Local Government has said that we can't, that they wouldn't support that, us actually opting out, given our performance improvement notice, and they believe that the Minister now must get on and make the necessary arrangements in relation to other councils.
So have we got correspondence in relation to that?
Only verbal.
Back to my original question, Councillor Tuckerman, and particularly my stance on this is either way, and no great thought at this particular point in time, but I'm asked to vote on a recommendation here about opting out on apparently a phone call that says we have no choice. I think there should be more documentation to support that, I would imagine. Councillor Armstrong.
Mr Mayor, I agree entirely. I'd like the General Manager to advise us what work has been done on this. My understanding is there's been some considerable amount of work done on it, and in actual fact Council has engaged a firm called IBIS to undertake some sort of financial planning or financial modelling for this to proceed in accordance with the July 2020 deadline.
Through the chair, you're quite right. We did contract IBIS sometime, I think, some months ago in relation to the rates modelling. While they do have some preliminary information which they've supplied to me, they're certainly not on track to deliver, or they'll certainly, whilst they can certainly deliver us information over the remainder of the year, in order to stay on track for the 2020 timeline, we would actually have to go into consultation and have all that rate modelling with us now. I don't believe that they've finished that work, that it's at a point that Council can actually consider those models.
Can we find out? That's supposition.
Through the chair, I know from what I've seen. From the information that I've received from IBIS over the last couple of days in conversation with them.
Mr Mayor, I just find this absolutely incredible. We've known about this since day dot, and it appears as though, like so many other projects, it's just been left drag. For the life of me, do we have staff that's capable of doing this, or do we have to get more consultants in?
Through the chair, you don't. Our key revenue officer who was handling this project left very quickly and left this project in limbo, and accordingly I've had to pick that up. And certainly when I have spoken to the consultant and I have done the mapping in relation to the timeline required in order to do 2020, as I said, you'd have to start within a fortnight, and certainly the information and the data we've got is not ready.
We have no other staff that's able to do this work. Is that correct?
No, that's right. No other staff at this point that actually is capable of being pulled off what they're actually doing in order to continue this project.
So you haven't answered the question there. I asked whether there's no one else capable of doing the work. You've spoken about workload there. I'm talking about skills here.
Whilst there are other staff that are skilled to do that work, the modelling is not ready, and we cannot meet the timeline.
Through the Mayor, this seems to me to be a massive project, a big job to do. Would it not be good sense to get consultants or extra staff in to help out to do it? Because it'd be good if we can get it done in 2020.
Through the Chair, the advice from the Minister is saying, the advice from the Office of Local Government is saying that it's unlikely to be approved for us to stay in. The amount of work, you're right, it is a significant amount of work, and it actually takes a number of people across the finance team to actually deliver this body of work, not just a revenue officer, because of what's actually involved. And as I said, it takes some 9 months to actually deliver a adequately consulted and effective rates model for the organisation. But critical to that is actually having decent modelling that you can actually go to discuss and actually start to break down and make a decision about what rate structure you actually want to adopt.
Comment, Mr Mayor. Look, I've been through a rate review and a rate structure a number of years ago at the Hardin Shire. There is a hell of a lot of work involved in it. And even if we started today or even last month, we would not have been able to do it for the 1st of July next year. You know, like you've got to have this up and running by about February, say March, April at the latest. And there's absolutely no way in the world would you be able to do that. And I suggest that if we can grab an extension to the 1st of July 2021, we grab it, because I can't see we could do it any earlier than that.
And what do we say to those landholders who may be potentially disadvantaged because of new valuations occurring?
Double up.
There's going to be winners and losers all the way through. Whether you do it when you do a rate review, there are certainly going to be winners and losers. You've got to make sure you get it right, or otherwise they will come and hang you.
Everyone that's going to get a new valuation is going to be a loser, Councillor. That's not because of the rating system. That's simply because of the timing.
There are concerns on either sides of the story, I think, about it. My question was, and I think I've got my answer now, that has been recommended by our General Manager, saying that we haven't got the resources to do this. It was stated by the Minister that we have no choice. I just wanted to see the documentation where the Minister said we had no choice. But listening to what the General Manager just told our Council, it sounds like we haven't got the resources to do it. So that's end up the same result. It's a different way of going about it, but explaining it to myself, because I happen to think that I know it's a lot of work, but I would have liked to have thought that we would have done it in our term. But anyway, any other comments?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, we had a report at the council meeting 2 weeks ago about the capabilities and capacities of the staff, and I don't recall seeing anything about the lack of capacity. We've clearly been told by the General Manager there's a lack of capacity. Are we being just fed?
No, through the Chair. The report you're referring to, the workforce strategy, it was in response to a question asked by your fellow councillor, Councillor Walker, and that report was about what Council is currently offering in relation to training and incentives for existing staff. That was responding to a very specific question. It is not actually responding to qualifications or other, as you stated at the meeting. What Councillor Armstrong is concerned about is, do we have capable staff that are capable of doing a review? Technically, yes. Do we have the resources? No. Is the modelling ready? No. Is the Minister likely to approve an opt-out? No. So, really they are the issues that you've got to consider. It is, we have a significant amount of workload. We have just taken 12 months to balance and reconcile all of our financials, because we have taken on a total system upgrade, a $4 million investment that was extraordinary and took an extraordinary amount of work in the organisation to actually successfully achieve, and we had successfully achieved that. We've taken on $44 million worth of project, some 10 times the amount of projects that the Hardin Shire or the Bullera Shire would have done, and some 5 times the amount of projects that the Young Shire would have done. We have an extraordinary time, and we are really suffering in relation to the ability of being able to achieve that workload. Our biggest strategic risk at this time is still the merger. It is still about the many deadlines that were handed down to the council once they actually agreed to merge, and that was rates harmonisation, it was a total system upgrade, and a range of other things in relation to the integrated water cycle management, and a range of things just by agreeing to be a merged council. I agree there needs to be a reality check about our capability, but Councillor Armstrong asked some very specific questions. Unfortunately, at the base of all of this, besides the other factors around resourcing the minister, is the modelling is not ready, and we would need to be able to start within 2 weeks' time to adequately consult with our community, and you heard tonight that that's what our community wants, in order to successfully bring in a rates harmonisation, which is probably the first time that these rates have been harmonised for a considerable amount of time. That needs adequate resources to implement that. Yes, you could fund it completely externally, however, your modelling's not ready.
Councillor Horton.
So, General Manager, what you're saying is that if you had sufficient staff with the expertise, we're handicapped until such time as the modelling comes in. Your hands are tied.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Any Councillor Tuckerman?
So just a question to the General Manager. Are we as a council, I think I asked this at the last meeting, what do we need to do to fill the gaps that we have in regards to the shortfall in resources? And are we likely to get a report back from you asking for extra resources? Or what's the plan going ahead to be able to get this project delivered by July 2021?
Look, through the chair, it was a standard vacancy, so in other words, the key person left the organisation. Unfortunately, they were a long-serving employee, so they took with them a fair amount of corporate knowledge with them. It's in recruit right now, and clearly, with the structure back in place of the corporate area, you've got capacity to deliver these projects. The biggest issue that we had at the baseline is still the modelling.
Thank you for that. Given all that discussion, councillors?
Move the recommendation.
Moved by Councillor Tuckerman, thank you. Seconded Councillor Manchester.
Can I move an amendment?
Councillor Armstrong.
Or perhaps Councillor Tuckerman and Manchester. Councillors Tuckerman and Manchester might be happy to add point D, that council be provided with monthly progress reports on this project.
Mover and seconder happy with dot point?
Yeah, look, I'm happy with that, because I would think that we'd probably even start it, to get it through, start it in February, March next year anyhow, so I'm more than happy about that one.
Thank you. That being said, there's no more discussions for or against. I'll put that. All those in favour? Aye. Again, Councillor Armstrong notices again. Councillors, I believe that brings us to the end of our council meeting. Thank you for your time and your indulgence, and I declare the meeting closed at 8:18 p.m. and our next council meeting will be, at this stage, our ordinary meeting